The moment is here. This is our moment.
America, we are back, baby. Welcome to another episode of America Unfiltered with James Pascalides. We have our guest today, Mathew Finnemore. He is from Orlando, Florida. He was on the Jubilee pro versus anti-mass deportations episode with me. He got a lot of the spotlight on the episode, as you guys saw as well. I want to introduce you guys to him right here. Tell the people about yourself a little.
Hey, what's up? My name's Matt. I work a lot in Orlando. I play funny games. I talk about whatever I want to. And yeah, we're here. We did it.
I'm glad you're on the podcast. We've talked a lot since the podcast, or not the podcast. I'm glad since Jubilee's happened, we've talked a lot. And I don't know, you're a really nice guy to talk to. Even though we disagree on a lot of political stuff, it's still fun to just be able to, I don't know, it's rare in today's world that you find people you could still just kind of be friends with on the other side of the aisle politically. But I feel like that's one of the positives of Middle Ground and Jubilee is that the people who go on there are generally more level-headed sometimes than like Surrounded and all the other things that you see on Jubilee, I think.
Yeah. I think that's definitely like one of the toughest things, especially like you said before, like today, right now, it's a very polarizing, just like with the whole environment in general, because of like politics and how important it is to be informed and important it is to have that kind of knowledge. And I think that with that Middle Ground video, who said it? I think John said it, that we were like the most polite that he's been a part of. I think that in order to not persuade, but in order to give information and opinions on both sides, you need to be able to combat, or not literally, but figuratively combat with other people's ideologies and beliefs. And I'm the firm believer that in order for me to have someone to understand my side of the argument, we need to be able to understand the other side and just be able to have that kind of comfortable conversation. Yeah, I don't like the idea of bubbles, like just keeping yourself in that one bubble. I don't like that, but yeah, there's other people that disagree with me.
Yeah, and I mean, we shot the shoot in LA, but we both live in Florida, so it is kind of, it's rare. And there are some liberals in Florida, but it's rare nowadays, definitely. So it is kind of the LA. They have their own bubble. Florida, they have their own bubble, but it is still cool that even though we lived in this place and we go to places like that, we're still able to find a way outside of that bubble to connect with people who do have those opposing views. But I did want to ask, did you think the episode had the impact you wanted it to have when you were applying or going on it in the first place?
I think that for me, I think I had a pretty good impact. I think that I think I could have done a lot better in communication and like being straightforward. It was my first one, period. I think you said it too, that it was your first time. So like for me, like debating in front of live setting, it's a very big difference. And I don't know if you got this, but it was freezing cold in that building. So like I'm combating like the internal shaking of, oh my God, this is my like the first thing I'm doing. But then
you
also
had short
like the
sleeves on too, right? If I remember.
Yeah. It was cold. So I was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. But then like after like the first one that we had, I was like, all right, cool. Like I feel more comfortable now, like getting all of the jitters out. But I think that for me and like the people that I've talked to, I think that it does do a good impact. Obviously, the people on YouTube, they're going to feel differently about either side. They're going to think that they have the most amount of information than others. Like, people need to understand, like, when you get up there, you have no idea what's going to be brought up to you. You don't know what the conversation is going to be about, and you don't know what the opposing side is going to say. At the end of the day, as long as I know that I can do better in debates, then that's all that matters.
Yeah, you really didn't like. I feel like there were people on both of our teams that like you really didn't know what would come out of their mouths almost at any point, and like it was one of those things where like as much as you prepared yourself for the debate, like as much as you informed yourself on the facts and the policies, anything could have came out of anyone's mouth at any point, and they did a great job at editing it to make it look like we stayed on track, but I feel like we were constantly off track. I mean, we would go from, I forget how, but at one point, like I was talking about Denmark, and
because I think what happened was, I don't know if it was the first, because for people that don't know, the Jubilee video, the first prompt was, is it ethical? That was the first prompt that they brought up. So like all of them were edited differently.
Yeah, they did it out of order.
we jumped to Greenland out of nowhere, and I was like, oh shit. And now we're getting into murky waters. But yeah, I think that with the edits that they did, yeah, you're right. They definitely try to make it seem as we're as cohesive as possible, but there's just so much to talk about on either side that it's hard to stick with specific topics when they branch out and can like have a generalistic view on certain things. So the ICE thing, like that was something that I was like, man, like this, we can talk about ICE, but there's just so much more to it that we have to talk about as well. So it's a challenge. It definitely is. But I think we did a good job showing our sides. And yeah, I'm fully happy with both of our sides just being able to like communicate to each other, still be able to talk to each other afterwards, and nobody, from what I know, nobody like hates each other. It's just we just have difference in opinions.
Yeah, I think we were all able to get along very well, and kind of just referencing what you said a few minutes back, that like John said we were, some of the most polite group that he's ever dealt with, and I think he said he's done Jubilee 5 or 6 times or so. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a compliment, especially when you're in. I think we were in one of the more controversial episodes. Jubilee has, I don't know, when you watch the middle grounds, there's definitely some not softball episodes, but it's not very controversial. But pro versus anti-mass deportations is someone that affects everybody in the country. 360 something million Americans and millions of immigrants as well. So
Yeah.
it definitely is one of the, for our first public, media-esque appearance, whatever you want to call it, it's definitely a crazy one to do. So I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm excited
absolutely.
that that's what we got to do. That's what we got to talk about. Was there anything that got edited out that you wish they kept in there? I know they, we filmed for 3-4 hours or so, and they really only aired a little over an hour of it.
Honestly, I think it would be nice. I think if anything, it would be nice to hear a little bit more from the people that we didn't get to hear as much. So like a little bit more from like Caesar and Floor, and even more from Carson and John, because Carson did have more points than what they showed. He
They
only got
even
like
talked one.
1 point.
He talked 3 times, but they only showed one of them. Like, at least give
Yeah,
them all three.
I felt so
They didn't
bad because I
even
was
give
like,
his best point in there.
yeah, exactly. And like that, and that's just what sucks. It would have been nice to see more points from other people that didn't get the chance to talk, but that's probably the only thing that I've got. What would you have chosen?
Things I wish they would have, even if they didn't like make it a long segment, even if they kept it very short, I wish they showed the one they cut out completely about the kids, where they said, should any child have to come home to a empty house? I thought it was a poorly worded prompt. Like, I thought if they worded it better, they would have got more reactions. I don't know if that's what they're trying to get specifically, but they worded it really poorly, and I think if they saw that all of us sat down, that I thought it showed something. And I think,
Yep.
I don't know, I understand Jubilee is an independent company. I just think it would have showed some bipartisan, it would have been nice to see. And that would
Yeah.
have showed a connection between us earlier in the episode than the very last scene.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been really good to see because nobody wants that. Nobody wants kids suffering with or without their parents. Nobody wants kids going through sex trafficking situations. None of us want that. At the end of the day, it's just because we've talked about this before on our recent group togetherness. Like we all talked about it. We just want people to live that big happy life, liberty, pursuit of happiness situation, and we don't want kids separated at the border. We don't want kids separated from their parents. And it's just how do we get that done? What are the legislative abilities that we can do? I think we've all agreed on that too. Like legislation is very important. But yeah, actually I agree. I think that part would have been nice to keep in the video as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And then thinking personally, my 51st state comment that I made, it just was a funny, like, that would have been a good TikTok clip. Like, if
Yeah.
there's any TikTok clip that I would have had that could have gone viral, it's the 51st state comment, because the algorithm just loves that.
Yeah, exactly. That would have actually been a
But
really
other
funny
than that,
little
it
thing.
didn't make a good argument. It was just a good TikTok clip.
Because I know that we talked about you brought up a lot of really good questions when it came to like spirituality and that kind of stuff. What do you like fully believe in different spirits and stuff and like that kind of world, or are you specifically like Christian, Catholic,
I'm
Protestant?
mainly Catholic, so I'm a Christian Catholic, raised Christian Catholic, confirmed. It was a big portion of my life where I did stop believing, if I'm being honest. Probably, and it was not until fairly recently where I kind of got back into everything with religion. I would say from ages 16 to 22 to 23 is where I really struggled in believing with religion at all. And it was just mainly just due to a lot of circumstantial things happening in my life at the time. And just, I was young too. And just, I don't know, I went to Sunday school and I was a kid with ADHD who hated school in general. So I just associated, Sunday school with just like another negative school thing. But
Yeah.
then I started reading the Bible, which I didn't realize how long of a book it is. Oh my Lord,
Yeah.
it's a long book and those pages are as thin as it gets. But yeah, I started reading the Bible and I don't know, I that's kind of where I started getting it back and believing and then started finding myself going to church again when I wasn't working on Sundays. But what about you?
I grew up in a Christian house. My mother is she was like an Italian Catholic because Argentina has obviously Hispanic, but they also have a lot of Italians there. My dad was Christian, but it's weird because like when I was here before I went overseas, I was like, yeah, like I believe in the Christian faith. I believe in that kind of stuff. But then I started seeing like a lot of Hinduism, a lot of Buddhism, even a lot of Muslim faiths, like a lot of these different like people that preach different religions. And then it started making me feel a little bit more spiritual in that kind of mindset. So I do believe in like a higher power of some sorts. I love seeing it as almost like Greek mythology where it's like there's multiple versions of these different gods and stuff and having their beliefs being like, oh, okay, so if you have this kind of personality, you're more like Aries, or if you have this kind of mindset, you're more like Poseidon, that kind of stuff.
Have
But
you
like
read
I think
Percy Jackson? Just curious. I know it's like more of a kid series, but that was my favorite Greek mythology thing as a kid.
Yeah, dude. Actually, I not only did I started reading Percy Jackson, but it was after I did a D&D session of Percy Jackson. My friend homebrewed a whole Percy Jackson like campaign, and they had me play as this guy who was like the son of Helios, which is super fucking
Okay.
cool. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, Helios. Okay, let me learn more about it. And then like I started reading the books, and the books are actually really nice.
Yeah,
And
they're a good read even as an adult.
yeah, and I think that's also the reason as to why I'm much more of like a spiritual kind of person. Like I can't be agnostic because I do believe in different powers. I don't think that there's nothing up there or there's an unknown there. I know there's something there. I just don't know what it is, and I don't know if it could be anything. But yeah, I would definitely say I'm more spiritual than anything else.
I saw something this isn't I don't even I guess the best way to go into it. Yeah, I do you watch Joe Rogan at all?
I did actually. I still do from time to time just to just see who he has on and like what he's talking about. I know that in the beginning he had a lot of like interesting people and I would watch that, but I haven't watched a lot of stuff recently. What did they have somebody on that was like in that world?
No, I was just so I didn't even know he was religious. I've watched so many of his episodes and somehow it like completely a lot of his fans I guess didn't even realize it because I feel like I realized it at the same time as a lot of people on Twitter. But
Mhm.
he talked about a concept that I thought was interesting, and I just wanted to get your take on it. He said that science only asks you to believe in one miracle, and that's the difference between science and religion. And the miracle is the Big Bang. It's the one thing that no scientist can explain, and it's one thing that a lot of Christians would argue is God. But
Mm.
like, what do you? I guess kind of what's your take on just that phrase in general? I know it's kind of a vague question, but
It's hard to decipher, right? Because it's like you have I feel like for me it's hard to decipher because you do have not necessarily evidence like you do have some portions of evidence to show like history of like millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, and then you have the religious belief. I think that they're both threaded in the same string. I think that there's some truth to both of them, but for me, like the idea of the Big Bang, I'd have to look a little bit more into it. I know that they said it just what was it happened out of nowhere, basically.
yeah, like
I
scientists have no explanation for it. That's kind of it. Like what
Yeah.
I'm asking is really just like in theory questions because it's like religion asks you to believe in a bunch of different miracles, and that's one of the reasons people doubt it. And I'm
Mhm.
not even saying you. There's me just speculating, talking about people in general. But yeah, that's one of the reasons people doubt it. But science, they only ask you to believe in one miracle, is kind of what Joe Rogan said, which I found to just be an interesting take because I feel like not a lot of people talk about the not that we should be talking about the Big Bang all the time, but I do think it's an interesting concept that it's one of the biggest scientific things. It's the creation of our universe and what gave us life, I guess. And no
Hmm.
one, even our top scientists, can't explain it. I don't know. It just, that struck
I
me as
think,
an interesting thing when I heard it.
yeah, for sure. I think it's just hard because it's like, how can you, after millions upon millions of years, expect like life to just be out of blinking out of nowhere? I think that theories are a really great way of ascertaining all of that historical significance that we don't even know about, especially with like other planets being out there in the world. And then religion having that idea of if the Big Bang created all of this life, it had to be something or even someone of of crazy significance. And I think that with that kind of mindset, oh, for sure, it would have to be this kind of like argument between both sides. I think for me, if I were to say anything about this, uh, oh God, I don't know if I don't know if I could believe that it's just religion or if it's just the Big Bang. But until I see a Titan in space trying to eat a planet, like I won't know. I do believe though that like this planet has been around for like millions of years. Of course, there's there you can see like tectonic plate structures and movements and things like that. But
What's your take on the pyramids? Who do you think built the pyramids?
oh, it definitely was humans. I know that people make like the theory that like aliens did it, but
I don't think it
you
was
can
aliens. I think it was
all
just
good.
advanced humans.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I
Like
think
advanced.
far advanced past us, but they took a
y-
different route. I think we
Yeah.
took like an engine and machine route, and I don't know what route they took, but I would assume they took a different route based off of the fact that there's no evidence that they, invented internet
Yeah.
and machines and all that.
Yeah. I think it was just pure human force. I like when you throw, and this is gonna get crazy for me to say this, but
Oh, you're good.
Egyptians threw thousands upon thousands of slaves into
Yep.
the pyramids, and because of that, of that oppression and destruction, like they were able to make some of the craziest things ever. The Sphinx, the pyramids, even the pyramids in Mexico. I know they're like, oh, how can this one from Egypt be the same one in Mexico? It's like, it's just, how can I frame it? How can I frame it this way? Billionaires and CEOs, they have buildings that have either created or they buy or they rent out to show stature, to show power. Like the White House. The White House is
Yeah.
a powerful building. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in Mexico and the Aztecs made something that was similar to that because it looks like a power structure. You have the foundation of the people creating the number one point, which is the pharaoh or like the emperor. That makes a whole lot of sense because of just how it looks like power wise. Now, if it was Sphinx and Sphinx, I could be like, okay, this is kind of weird. But yeah, it's just unfortunately, a lot of human indecency that has just been thrown into these pyramids.
You've traveled a lot. You've talked about, and I want to get into a little of that more later. But I want to ask you: have you seen any of the wonders of the world?
Oh yeah, dude.
What ones have you seen? I haven't seen
the
any, so I'm curious.
I would actually suggest if you get the opportunity to go travel, especially into Asia, the Great Wall
Oh
of
yeah.
China is one of the most incredible things I've seen in person. For those of you that don't know, the Great Wall of China obviously is the giant wall that disconnects China from the rest of the world on the western side of Asia. They used it to fight against the Huns and the Mongols, and it stretches. Oh my God, I'm gonna look this up really quickly because I
Fourteen
want to.
thousand miles almost. That was one
Yeah,
of the
like.
craziest things that was a TikTok thing. Like I'm sure I learned it in school.
Hmm.
Again, I was just an ADHD kid in school. I loved learning certain things, but I hated a lot of the things I learned because I could realize very early on that I would never need most of it. But when I was on TikTok one day and I saw a TikTok like, go look up how long the Great Wall of China is. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, why? I looked it up. 14,000 miles.
I mean, what's crazy too is that, and I learned this from one of the tourists that were over there. When you climb the Great Wall, it's not just like the standard step. Some of these steps are like an inch tall. Some of them are like 2 feet tall, and it was to thwart invaders and their horses even from climbing it. So
Yep.
it gave the mainland Chinamen easier advantages to fighting other people. And so I'm trying to climb this fucking thing, and it is just so bad. I am like on the 5th or 6th step of climbing over. I'm just like, okay, am I even halfway? I look up, I'm not even halfway there. I'm like, okay, cool, great. This is awesome. But I saw that. If you look at the China, like some of the Chinese money, they have different structures that are in their dollars that you can actually see that still exists. So like some parts of Nanjing was on the, I think it was on their $5 bill. Some parts of Chengdu was there. Beijing, of course. Shanghai was there. But I also got to see a lot of stuff in Tokyo, which I would suggest to anybody. Like the best places to travel right now, I would personally believe, is going to be a huge portion of Asia, because Asia just has so much history. They've been around for much longer than a lot of our governments have and a lot of our countries have even. And they just have a lot of great enriched culture that you have got to see, like the Buddhists and their expansion of technology in Japan, the history of the mainland, the Philippines, Cambodia. I got to see the ruins over there. There's just, dude, you have got to go. You've got to go.
Yeah, I really want to keep traveling. When I've traveled out of the country, I've really only traveled to Europe, mainly Italy. I stayed in Germany on a layover for a night one night, which was
Oh,
interesting.
hey.
I was just pretty much at like the hotel airport for a night because we
Okay.
missed our connecting flight. And I've been to like the Caribbean area, Jamaica, stuff like that. But I would love to go to Asia. My sister has gone to Thailand on service retreats. It's funny because the same way you have talked to me about how you were raised in like a conservative family. My parents weren't like crazy political growing up, but they were definitely conservative, especially my mom. My mom's actually very conservative.
Yeah.
But my sister is as liberal as it gets. I mean, me and her are constantly, whether we love
Yeah.
it or we're debating with each other. And yeah, my sister, she went to Thailand on service retreats. She went to Africa on them. And I don't know, she would have the craziest stories. And like she would ride elephants and like stuff, just things you would never experience here. So it is really cool that, how old are you, Ian?
32, about to turn, actually, funny enough, for people that don't know, I'm turning
32?
33 next. Yeah, I'm gonna turn 33
Honestly, I
next
would have
week.
thought you were my age. You look young.
What are you, 24?
25. That's
Oh
crazy.
shit. Yeah, man. Yeah. It's
Oh
it's
my
a
God.
Hispanic blood, man. It's a Hispanic blood.
You said you're Italian too, right?
Yeah, so I'm more Argentinian than anything else, but my mom is also part Italian too. So there's like a huge chunk of that that's in my body. And
Do you
my
know from what
dad's,
part?
I want to say from her father's
No,
side.
like what part of Italy?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's from Buenos Aires, so I was like, I know exactly like in that area. My dad's side is Scottish and Irish, which is really cool because it's all like right there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a trip out with my partner. She and I are gonna go in October to London, to like the United Kingdom, and then go over to Ireland to see like what it's like over there. And then we want to do next year a whole Euro trip throughout all of the countries.
That's cool. Your dad's Scottish and Irish.
Yeah.
Do Scottish people like the movie Braveheart as much as Americans?
Oh no, it's all Americans, 100%. It's all 100%. Like,
Like I watched it just the other day again. Great. I love
yeah.
that movie.
It's a classic movie. And honestly, I love like what they did with Braveheart. And it reminds me of Lord of the Rings a lot, when there's King Theoden about to like storm Minas Tirith and he's like making his speech. It reminds me so much of Mel Gibson making his speech, which is crazy.
Yeah.
No, man, movies back in the day were so classic.
I mean, yeah,
That's
I was just talking about that with a friend the other night. I don't know. I really miss what movies used to be before. I like a lot of people say wokeness ruined medias, and I do think some movies did get a little too woke, but I don't think that's what ruined movies. I think what ruined
mhm.
movies is streaming. The idea that every
Yeah.
movie has to be a hit in the theater, you're not going to get DVD sales anymore. So like if you don't make 300 million in theater, you're just screwed.
Yeah.
And they're just not making these like Step Brother style buddy comedies and like I don't know. I miss stuff like that. Like there is some exciting stuff. Like The Accountant 2 just came out and Nobody 2 just is coming out and like it's a lot of cool sequels and stuff like that, but it feels like that's all it is. There's a bunch of cool
Mhm.
sequels.
And even just bad writing. A lot of people
Oh my
don't
god.
don't think that bad writing could make just a bad movie. That can absolutely be the case. If there's a lot of plot holes, then you're obviously not going to get a movie that you want. There's so many people that, like you said before, like it's woke, it's not wokeness. Like you can make a really good woke movie exist.
Yeah.
It's just how you create the character, how you construct the reasonings as to why they do certain things. Like, just some people just don't get that.
Yeah, I think like you said, there's a few instances where people go like, so like I think the Snow White one where they took out the prince kissing the princess is just disrespectful to Disney. Like
Yeah.
that, or like what every girl watched growing up. I don't know. That's just me personally. Like, but in general, yeah, I think they have to figure out a new system financially where they're not just gonna get, where it's not all dependent on the movie theater. And it sounds
Mhm.
really hard, but if they don't figure it out, we're never gonna recover, and we're never gonna get movies like Interstellar and The Martian again. I
Yeah.
mean, some of my favorites.
I wouldn't mind just not having remakes anymore. That's just me. But at the
Oh,
same
I
time,
would
like,
love that.
yeah, if at the same time, if you're gonna remake a movie, you should remake a movie that hasn't gotten enough traction when it was first incepted. So one of my favorite movies of all time is Treasure Planet. I don't know if you've ever heard of that movie.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it and couldn't like put it. But I've heard the name.
Yeah, I'd recommend getting it. Try if you can. It's like Treasure Island, like the classic Disney
Okay.
movie, but in space. It follows this kid who is having issues because he's in a single mom situation, but he finds the opportunity to right his wrongs by finding this map that takes him to a giant planet that is full of money. He thinks that's going to be his way of getting back for his mom and taking care of her. Moral of the story, though, is that like him just going down the right path is the thing that makes him the best person that he is. He does find like a father-like figure in the movie too, but making that a live action movie so people like you and others that have not seen this movie would be a really great way of making a remake, because that can bring its popularity back up. I think that making something like Snow White or Cinderella that's already been popular, I think is just needed. But
Yeah, that's a good way
yeah,
to put it. That's a really interesting perspective on it that you don't hear often. I like that perspective.
yeah,
I really think that they keep focusing on trying to do things that are already kind of like you said, they're already big, even if it's not a movie, like the Minecraft movie. It got so much traction because of that chicken jockey trend or whatever, which that was crazy. I saw a video of a kid lighting off fireworks and holding an actual chicken in the theater, which I mean,
yeah.
maybe they
And
rented it out. I don't know, but
and
it's
it's like that
crazy.
doesn't, yeah, and that doesn't make a good movie. Like that's just lame. It's just really dumb. I don't
If
know
you
why
brought
that
your
would be the
kids to
case.
that and that happened, that's a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm glad like I played Minecraft. I'm done. I don't need to go to a movie see about it. I know what's in the movie. I don't care. But yeah, it's funny that they were making memes off of that. They're doing the same thing right now with, I don't know if you've seen it. The Weeknd made a movie recently. It's all over
No,
TikTok. It's
I've only
okay.
seen him in one movie ever, Uncut Gems. I don't
Oh,
know if you've ever
yeah.
seen that with Adam Sandler. It's the most
I haven't
stressful
seen it.
movie. Oh my god! If you want to sweat, watch that. It's a movie about a degenerate gambler, and it's Adam Sandler. He's a jewelry store owner in the Diamond District, and he's just a degenerate
Oh,
gambler on the verge of death with all his bookies. And the whole movie, you're
yeah.
just like your heart is beating out of your chest. It's borderline psychedelic. How
Yeah, but it's funny because there's a movie called Hurry Up Tomorrow. That's the one with the weekend. It's got not Jenna Marbles. It's what the hell is her name?
I'm gonna
Jenna
write it down.
Ortega. But everyone's flaming that movie right now because there's just how bad like the weekend's acting is. And like right now, I'm looking it up right now. The Rotten Tomato score is like 14%. It's so bad. And
Yeah.
it's nah.
The I don't know. I feel like the sometimes you can't trust the audience score when it's like with certain movies. Like I feel like sometimes people just have political bias towards actors, but I don't know. I mean, a 14% is that's awful.
Yeah, like actually a good example that you can make with that. I made a video on my YouTube channel about Amelia Perez, and my oh bro, I was so mad watching that movie, listening to that movie. It didn't understand what it wanted to be, and it was like the moral synopsis of the story is that there is this gang member or there's like boss cartel guy who wanted to transition to one. From what he says, he wanted to be himself, but he also wanted to run away from the cops. And he thought that if he transitioned, that would be a good way of doing it. And it was like, I know that we have our views differently on things, but it's completely undermining what those people that do transition. It undermines what their actual reasons are. And it was like, it just all in all, like, that's the idea of a woke movie, having just bad writing, having a bad understanding of things, and just like a bad plot in general. And it's like, they try to give it Oscars, they try to give it awards, and it's like, you guys have no idea what the fuck you're doing. But all right, cool.
Do you think, slightly controversial question, but not too, do you think that the Oscars should get rid of the I don't even know what the list of qualifications, you need a certain actor of a certain race or sexual orientation in a lead role or semi-lead role to be in law? Like, do you think that should be a requirement, or do you think it should be only merit based, or do you think having that requirement adds more inclusivity?
I know that it's like a private business, so they're going to do whatever they want to, whatever. I think that when it comes to showing high quality movies, making it like a force to do something like that, I think is unnecessary. But I think that we as a people should like be encouraged or have an understanding that like anybody who's anybody can act really well. So for example, have you seen the new Sinners movie?
I haven't yet. I'm very excited to, though.
Oh,
I've heard such good reviews.
You have to. I would highly
yeah.
suggest watching it. It goes through all of these different things of it goes through like race, it goes through like actual history, it goes through religious stuff, it goes through like this person's fight within himself to either stay where he is or grow to be something better. You have like supernatural stuff, you have, I think I said spiritual stuff already. Like, the movie from beginning to end has a reason for its existence, and also it's just smart. It's a very smart movie. You don't have, it's a horror movie too, so it's in this genre that horror movies don't really get like a lot of interest or scrutiny in
I
Oscars.
love a good horror movie.
Yeah, it's a good horror movie. And I think that with what its like message is, I really like it. I think that Michael B. Jordan does an incredible job. He plays as a set of twins.
I heard.
And you can tell the personalities completely apart from one another. They can swap out outfits and you can tell which one is which. And I will remember of the Oscars, like group or whatever, he would be one of my choices for best actor so far in the movie. And then I gotta look her up really quickly. Who was she? Oh yeah, Wunmi Mosako is one of the actresses. She's like the spiritual lady who's extremely intelligent and knows all these different things. She'd be a great best actress, or even Haley Steinfeld. They're really good actresses that can play it really well.
Felt Josh Allen's the quarterback's fiance or wife, right?
Yeah.
I'm an Eagles fan, not a Bills fan, but I love that guy. One of the best quarterbacks in the league, yeah.
Bro, he was dangerous. I watched him play against the Lions, and I was like, God, we have a huge problem with running quarterbacks. A huge problem.
He's just such a tank. He could throw the ball so far, and he could just drill through like linebackers. It's one of the craziest things. But while we were talking about movies, I wanted to ask, do you have a favorite movie?
Oh God, it switches back and forth.
I know it's a hard question.
When I was a kid, I loved The Dark Knight. Dark Knight was my favorite. Okay. Just because I loved Heath Ledger. Heath Ledger was my favorite actor at the time.
Yeah. Chris Nolan too.
Chris Nolan too. Another one was Pandorum, I think it was called. It's also a horror. Yep. Pandorum was a horror movie that I really loved watching. It has Dennis Quaid in it. It has Ben Foster in it. It's intense. It's an intense horror film. But I don't know if I have a favorite horror. I would say Sinners right now is like my all-time favorite horror film at the moment. But just
or
like
even
favorite
movie in general, yeah.
12 Angry Men, actually. That's my favorite movie of all time. It's a good one. It's a great one.
First time I ever watched that was for a class, but I've rewatched it 20 times since. Great movie.
Yeah, great movie. But then that also brings me back to the question that you asked about like the Oscars. I think that the Oscars should incentivize great acting from anybody and everybody. And I think that having what happened to Amelia Perez, where she was even where that movie was even placed in the nomination just because of like identities, I think does a disservice to actual movies that have had that kind of identity already placed in those movies. There's tons of movies that have like trans actresses and main characters as trans, and I think like those movies did a really great job in showing like the struggles that they go through. And I think that Amelia Perez just was not. It just was really bad.
Didn't Euphoria have a trans character as well?
I think it did actually. Let me see really quickly.
I think I read something about that there was a trans character in it.
Yeah, Hunter Schafer, actually. The actress Hunter Schafer is who transgender says the gender listed on the passport. Oh, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, so Hunter was actually in Euphoria, and she's trans, and I think that's great. I think that the struggle that I think a lot of people have, and this is getting into the weeds, I know.
Oh, I don't care. We can talk about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's just the right of self-expression and privacy. I don't think that we should put it on kids that are at a certain age. I can understand that side of the argument for sure. But I think that if that child talks about it for 5, 10, 15, 16, 18 years, then I think that's something that should be discussed with the parents and discussed with the doctor.
Me and you have pretty much the exact same views on it. I'm a free believer of everything freedom in America. What anyone over the age of 18 wants to do, I'm completely okay with. And just don't involve children the same way I would involve children.
Yeah, I wouldn't involve kids with drinking. I wouldn't involve kids with 14-year-olds driving or 14-year-olds traveling on their own. I wouldn't support that just because I think
you could take almost any political topic and like almost break it down to like, okay, like we can agree to disagree on this, but like just protect the kids, and that's what we're both sides, Democrats and Republicans, are generally going to agree on that. Like there's like really far right and really far left who might argue against it, but I think that's one of the bipartisan. One of the greatest things about this country is almost everyone can agree. Let's protect the children and just I
think for me, like let's say that like when I get older and have a child, because I would love to have a girl. Oh my God, I would love to have a girl. If I had a girl with my now partner, or when I have a girl,
there you go, good correction.
Yeah, when she becomes 10 or when she becomes 11, and she like internally feels like she's actually a boy, it's okay. Then let's go talk to the doctors. Let's go talk to all these people that we can. Let's see, if this is something that you truly feel, if this is something that there's anything I can do to help with that. And it gets to 3 or 4 years that she just continues to talk about it. It's okay. Then let's see what the protocols are, the process is, and I'd be fully supportive of her in that regard. Because at the same time, it's the same thing with my partner. If she feels like she's unsafe in what she is currently, and she feels like she feels more comfortable in a different way, then yeah, of course, I'm going to support it. I think it's just like you have to include professionals that are in the field, therapists, doctors, just anybody that knows it more than you do. Because I don't fully know what goes into transgenderism, but I know that for me, if it's not harming me, but it's supporting other people, then yeah, I'm all for it.
I can agree with some of what you said there, but I definitely appreciate your perspective even on the stuff I don't agree with. It's always nice to hear different perspectives on things. And that's definitely one of the bigger topics in the country now with Trump. I know there's so many different political topics that are more controversial, but that's definitely one of the, specifically like regarding sports, all that stuff. It's one of the bigger ones that you see on Twitter, and it seems to be one of the ones that gets the most headlines and all that. Yeah, so I can see why. Yeah, it's one of the, what's the right word? It's one of the most taboo subjects, and the thing of like so many people are scared to talk about it, and there are so many people who like for example, I had what was his name? Who was the guy? How am I forgetting his name? I was just on the phone with him an hour ago. The guy sitting next to me at Jubilee, Carson.
Oh, Carson.
Yeah. I've been on the phone with Carson almost every day over the last week. Carson. He talks more than me. It's one of the crazy. He didn't say a word during Jubilee, but the kid, like when you're talking to him, like you almost have to be like, "Yo, Carson, shut up!" Like let me jump in. Like this guy does not. He's crazy how much he talks, and I kept saying, "I'm like, dude, I can't believe he got stage fright on the one day. It was killer." Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. He had a bunch of interesting takes on like a lot of these things, and yeah, he just like. He's someone who would never speak about it publicly, but he said some of the most insightful and interesting takes on it that I've ever heard. And I'm sure like you'll hear him like just in future conversations we'll all have. But yeah, it's crazy that like some of the people who are scared to talk about it or would never talk about it, really some of them have some of the best things to say about it, no matter what side of the aisle they're on. it's everyone makes good points and everyone's able to make their argument pretty well, but I wish people like Carson would really step up more and jump in. I don't know. He had so much to say, and I keep thinking about that.
Yeah, I think, and it definitely gets to like that conversation that we had before. So I was like, man, I wish like I think I understand why they were such a crunch time. They had, for people that don't know, they had 2 or 3 other Jubilee videos that they were doing that same day. I think
Yeah.
there was just so much that they had to do in order for their day to be successful. I totally get that. I just wish that for a middle ground video that's like this big, boy, I feel like we needed like an 8-hour session just to talk about everything.
I thought they should have made the episode 2 hours. I like.
Oh yeah.
Even if they just added another 40 minutes out of the, like, because we probably filmed for 3.5. Like, it would have been. There was just a lot of, like I said, they cut out an entire topic. They cut out a lot of really impactful stuff, and they cut out a lot of the, like, it was really me, you, John, and Lori. Like, it was like Sydney would be on there a little more than like Caesar, Floor, and Carson, but Caesar, Floor, and Carson were, 3 times a piece, 2 times a piece. I felt bad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, them getting only like small portions of conversations, I think sucked. I really wish, man, that they had more time. But maybe in the future we'll have more opportunities to like talk in that kind of regard. I know that when I move into my place, I'm like in my new place, I want to make a video about it and just talk about and have each person basically on to like talk a little portion about everything, just see like how they felt. Same thing that you're doing right now.
Oh, I'd love to.
And just to explain like what was going through their mind, because I know that the first thing I'm going to have to do for this video is talk about my stupid fucking take with Christopher Columbus. I was
going to ask you about that at some point. I was going to say, did you have a favorite and worst moment? And then I was going to follow it up with, I know your worst moment.
Oh yeah. My worst moment was, I'm never bringing
Columbus
came from France or England. Fucking Jesus. I'm never bringing him up again. You know what? I saw
history books hit him.
Yeah, there was one comment that was like, Americans are never gonna live this down, and I was like, guys,
the fact that they put it in the first 2 minutes, like
the first 2 minutes.
If they put it in the if it was anywhere else in the episode, like anywhere past 25 minutes, like nobody would have noticed.
Dog,
like maybe 1 or 2 comments, but
right,
first 2 minutes is brutal.
The first like minute of like showing Lori and like and my like banter back and forth, and it's like everyone's already tense listening to everything, and then they put my bullshit up, and it's like, come on, you guys set me up to fail unintentionally, but fuck off. That sucks. That was awful.
I gotta ask you, so this was your first time on Jubilee like me. Was it your first like I've debated like, friends, family, whoever. Like, I'm sure you have too. Was that your first like debate in that setting?
Yeah, I would say that's my first debate in an actual setting like that. There's a Twitch channel called Prime K's. I wanted to jump on it like 3 or 4 different times, but I was like, fuck. He streams at 11 o'clock at night. I work at 6 in the morning. I can't be on this right now. But I know that I want to do like more debates like that for sure. I think Modern Day Debate also does a lot of stuff on Twitch that I want to get into. It's like, there's so many, like, this was my first time. I would love to do more, but you can only do so much. You can only
how did you prepare? Like, and I don't even mean just studying. Like, I mean, how did you hype yourself up? Like what was your routine right before? Like, when we were all in our own green rooms, did you have headphones in, listen to music? Like how are you getting amped up for it?
Oh, 100%. I was like listening to the craziest music that I possibly could ever. I was listening to Duty, like screamo music. I was listening to that, and then it would go to like soft like jazz and like lo-fi music.
Sandman by Metallica.
Where it's like I need to be prepared for the heavy moments, and now I need to be in the more relaxed moments where they're like, okay, let's hear you talk for a minute. And then I just kept looking at I kept looking at different articles. I kept not listening, but like looking at different things to get myself in the headspace. And then maybe the last 5 minutes before the director came to take me, I was just looking at Instagram and just like scrolling through and just seeing what everybody else was doing. And I was like, man, whatever. It's just like,
yeah, that's same thing as me. Like, I feel like I was like, when I first got in there, when they sent us all to our own rooms, I was like in there and I was like, okay, like I would put on my headphones. I put on, what did I put on? It was Inky Johnson. You ever, he's like a David Goggins kind of guy. Like he either sometimes just talks normally, but sometimes he'll just yell at you. And it was just like an Inky Johnson motivational. It was just like him like screaming like, you gotta be ready. Like, just
I
one of
have
those.
not heard that before.
Oh, he was a Inky Johnson's a crazy story. He was a football player, very good football player. He got a full scholarship. He was born in the hood. He took the first scholarship that came to him because he just didn't care about like which college he went to. He's like, I'm going to be a star no matter what. He was going to go first round in the draft, and in one of his last college games, he had a career-ending injury, and it was
Oh,
very, very sad. But now he's like a great motivational speaker, still an extremely successful guy, which is really good, but it was very sad. I mean, Inky Johnson's a beast, but if you ever listen to, he has some like workout motivational stuff where he's really screaming at you. That's what I was listening to. But then he has some just like some good stories. I don't know. He's a good guy to listen to if you're ever just like, there's stuff for every mood. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no,
But
I
then
totally
yeah,
get
same
that.
thing. I was just scrolling like Instagram and Twitter at the end, just like I can't even like think about politics right before I go in this. I'm like, I just need a second to just like feel like I'm normal for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I absolutely understand that. And I think that's what the struggle was for me. It was just like, how do I prepare myself for a situation that is one, going to be extremely noticed, two, is something that like I wasn't fully ready for, like mentally, or not mentally, emotionally. And then also, it's like it's your first time doing it. You need to make sure that like you don't jump down somebody's throat. And then what was the first thing I did? Jump down somebody's throat. It was like, fuck. All right. Because it was like you said before, like we have so much that we want to say. We have so much on how we want to act. And we have so many feelings about a certain topic that it's so hard to separate those emotions and be like, okay, let's talk about the ethics of it. Let's talk about the language of it. Let's see like what we can do to better ourselves. And I know that after the first prompt, after that moment, I was like, all right, cool. I think I'm in a better headspace to actually discuss these things and not try and attack somebody and just be like, okay, let's go for the arguments, not for the person. Because I never want to go into a debate talking about someone's appearance or talk about somebody's history, because the second that you do that, it's over. You've essentially lost the idea of debating. It's just
Yep.
gone. You know, I was actually in a debate. It was like a friend debate kind of situation. And a friend of mine brought up the fact that I was really bad, like at a video game or whatever. And he used that against me. And I was like, you just lost this conversation because it's like, why are you bringing up stupid shit that doesn't matter? We're talking about this thing, not that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that is one of the, I feel like one of the, it's not the only sign, but one clear sign of intelligence, in my opinion, is when you're debating them, arguing with them, whoever starts insulting first, just like hurling random insults, that's a lack of intelligence. It's the person who's able to just keep their calm. It's not always a clear sign that they're very intelligent, but they're definitely not dumb. Like the
Yeah.
people who are just hurling insults, no, it's not me going at them, but that's the sign where it's like, okay, like you really need to improve your communication skills. Like it is at
Yeah.
a kindergarten level if you're just
Yeah.
doing that.
Because that's actually one thing that I've noticed, like in rewatching the Jubilee video, I know that there are many moments where I could have worded something a little bit better, or I could have given somebody a better understanding as to where I was coming from in order to isolate my point. And I'm going through these videos being like, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this when I said that, not this when I meant that.
Yep.
Like, that's something that I think is a really good strategy to do, is like going into the videos and just reading everybody's comments and just seeing, okay, this is what they're saying. What I need to do is I need to be more straightforward. I need to be more concise with my points. I need to put in both emotional and mental fortitude in these points as well. Yeah, I think this was definitely a really good start. I'm excited to see like if they do put me in the next potential video, if they ever do.
Yeah.
That like I'll be like, okay, cool. So these are the topics that they're going around. I can just start learning about the things around it and seeing like how I can just pinpoint it. But yeah.
And I feel like I struggled in the beginning. Like, I'm glad they aired the segments out of order that we filmed, because I feel like we were all like slightly nervous going into the first one. So if you did it in order, it kind of would have just sucked from this. Not that now it would have sucked, but it would have been a cold entry compared to like, I don't know, the way they did it. I thought was great where they did it out of order, because I don't think I really talked. Like, I probably said one thing in the first prompt. And I think it was just me asking Floor where she was from. I don't even think I said anything else beyond that. But then
Yeah.
then yeah, like I really started diving in after that. And I think if I was ever to go on Jubilee again, it'd be easier to know like when to jump in, pick my moments, when to interrupt, when to not interrupt. Because I think one of the biggest things I learned is like you don't have to be aggressive, but a little
Mhm.
bit. You almost got to insert yourself into the conversation sometimes. And like obviously there are times you just let people go when they're making up their point or whatever.
Yeah.
But in the like little back and forths, if you're each like saying a few words back and forth and then one person starts rambling, and if you don't interject, they're just gonna ramble and win. So you
Yeah.
really gotta like pick your moments to get in there and like not let them just override you. And that was one of the things I struggled with a lot yesterday. I think I texted you. I debated Parker on his live stream.
Yeah.
I randomly just jumped in and like requested, and I after like 30 minutes or whatever got accepted. He got banned after, sadly, because
Uh,
he didn't tell me the words you can and can't say. And I said, I think we were talking about, I forgot what we were talking about. We said the word genocide or something like that, and it got flagged.
oh,
Yeah, like
yeah.
it just I don't know what word it was, but this is going on YouTube, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, it got it got flagged. So he literally got like banned mid conversation, which that could, I don't know. I could be the guy who got Parker banned. That's fun.
Yeah, you listen, you get to keep that little piece of information for yourself. Yeah, and I think that's the struggle for sure is like what can you can't what can you say, what can't you say? And that's why TikTok is such a hard platform to actually like have these debates on, because we're talking about heavy conversations. You're talking about things like Palestine and Israel, Ukraine and Russia. You're talking about deportations. You're talking about all of these like crimes and murders and all this stuff. Like you're talking about heavy topics that are obviously going to get banned somewhere, like TikTok, if you're going to be saying really big statements. So I think for me, it's if I were to if I were to go into that world, or when I go into that world, I want to be able to say YouTube and Twitch, maybe, or like YouTube and like Twitter or X.
Yeah,
Like
I like
those would
X.
be like I would pick those places because it's like one, it's gonna let me it's gonna let me discuss this information with people, and it's not gonna put me in like I have to say things like this in order to actually have a conversation. You'll be able to actually put forward that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I don't know. Parker definitely got the best of me in some parts of the debates because like when you're also doing it on TikTok, the whoever is holding it controls the mute button and the volumes as well.
Hmm.
So like anytime he would talk, my volume would go down because he's the host. So like if he wanted to interrupt me at any point, it almost just shuts my volume off and like defeats any point I'm saying, which like that sucked. And then I don't know. I think Parker's really smart and an excellent marketer, and like he's not a bad debater, but I don't think he debates in good faith. Like I think when me and you debated, like that was in good faith. Like we both made
Yeah.
our arguments. They're both based off of slight emotion, but facts and reason for the most part.
Yeah.
And we didn't like you didn't take my words and twist them. And I hope I wasn't doing that to you. But like
No.
I felt like everything like at some point yesterday he was trying to make it sound like I thought Epstein was a good guy. And I was like, dude, like I hate pedophiles more than anybody. Like I live in Florida. Like this is the land where we put them to death. Like I don't think you got to worry about that. So
Right.
like it was just one of those weird things where I just kept like for the last 10 minutes of the debate, I was debating him on you debate in bad faith. So it
Right.
was yeah, it was such a
Right.
weird one, but it was a fun like I just went in cold and I still had a fun time. I just
Yeah.
enjoy doing it sometimes. But
Yeah, I
like
noticed. Yeah, because I noticed that he there's a lot of times where if you're trying to debate somebody, you should not want to just go after them with such a like negative or bad faith kind of mindset. What you want to do when you're making these kind of debates is you want to hear what they're saying, try to understand where they're coming from, and then combat that reason and be like, okay, so why are we thinking this way? What about these different facts that we brought up? I think who was it? No, it was John. It was John and Carson when they came up and we were talking about what if instead of kicking people out, what if we try to bring them in through our legislation? I think that's what we agreed on. We was like, we can fix our systems. I fully believe that the system's not perfect. It will never be perfect, but we need to find ways to make it. And instead of taking your idea and being like, well, then you just hate immigrants. Like that's a really fucked up thing to say. It's like you don't. You want the system to be better. So it's like,
yeah.
okay, let's find different ways than just like A, B, and C. Maybe there's a D, E, and F way of doing it. Like maybe there's a different style of things. So yeah, I don't ever want to be a debate bro. I never liked the idea of being a debate bro. I want to be able to talk to people and be like, okay, this is the reason as to why. This is the reason as to why I want to feel like this is what we can do. This is how we can better ourselves. But yeah, I've seen him debate a couple times, and it's a not my
The headache to listen. He just talks like really fast and he asks a lot of weird questions. It's like same thing I have, like I love Charlie Kirk obviously because I'm a conservative, but it's a similar argument I have with Charlie Kirk is a lot of times he does, like sometimes he does go into the, and same thing with Parker, I'm sure sometimes he does go into these debates like wanting to just educate people, change voters' minds. Like they all only talk to people over the age of 18 to try and flip voters from, you know, Democrat to Republican to get Democrat because of TikTok and just reels and clips in general. Like that's how they make money, that's how they support themselves. And like they're gonna have to at some point, like Charlie Kirk, he's gonna have to own the libs, and Parker's gonna have to make a bunch of kids look stupid, and that's it. Like I understand why they do it because yeah, it's an excellent way to make a living, and it sure beats sitting in an office all day. But at the same time, there does come a slight level of like media dishonesty. I wouldn't even call it dishonesty because it's not like they're outright lying, but media dishonesty in the way of like editing with clips and stuff like that.
It's bad framing, I will say. Yeah, I fully agree. It's bad framing because at the end of the day, like you don't want to just like own libs or own conservatives. You want to be able to show them why certain pieces of information need context or why certain statements being made could be like unjustifiable or it can be like dangerous things to say. But I never liked the idea of, on the Charlie Kirk side, going to a college where these kids are still learning about the world and not talking to adults that have already gone through the world. Like when you guys were there in front of me with Middle Ground, I was like, okay, cool. I don't know whether or not they're college kids. I don't think they're college kids. They seem more like adults than college kids. We're going to debate like adults. And it felt very comfortable. I was able to talk to you guys about everything and not have any issues with it. But going to a campus and like posting up a tent and then we're going to debate for 2 minutes and then you have to go. It's like, you're just doing it for clips. And then the same thing with Parker.
A lot of it's clips.
Yeah. And then the same thing with Parker being like, do you know what this fallacy means? Do you know what this statement means? It's okay. Are we here to debate lessons or are we here to debate like terms or are we actually going to sit down and have a conversation? I want to have an actual sit down with you and discuss certain things and not be like, do you know what this means? And do you know what that means? I'd have to look into his stuff a little bit more. I don't really watch what he does. I watch a little bit more of what Dean does. But even after this whole...
Do you like Dean more than Parker?
I honestly don't really care for them the most. I have my guy. I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name's Pisco.
You told me about him.
Yeah, he's a lawyer from New York who debates on those kind of from that perspective. And it's like I like listening to him more because he's coming from where I want to come from, which is like laws, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and okay, so why do these things? And like the philosophical world, I don't mind the philosophical aspect of things, but I'm very much like that drunk guy at a campfire talking about, bro, what if the sun was a human? Like that's where I start to get to like the weird shit.
I get you.
You know what I mean? But I do still listen to them from time to time just because I want to hear what their arguments are and why they're arguing in that certain way. But it's like having Pop-Tarts when I could be having a steak and mashed potatoes. That's how I see it.
It's a good reference. That's it. Yeah. No, I mean, I think even a lot of liberal, like, I think they're really popular just because, like, clips, like, they are entertaining with their clips. Like, I think anyone who's able to make anyone else look stupid is entertaining in some way, just because humans thrive off competition. Like, they thrive off seeing winners and losers and bad reactions and etc. So I definitely am entertained by them. But yeah, I mean, like, long form, it's actually, like, miserable to listen to and watch. Like, when I was in the queue waiting for Parker's thing, like, the people he debates are morons. Like, I'm sure not all of them, but, like, the kid before me was, like, I don't even remember but it was the word, like, a 2-year-old could argue better than this kid. Like, no one could have argued. Like, it was so bad. So, like, long form, it's miserable.
Yeah, and that's the struggle, right? The struggle of these conversations is, like, you're debating random people on TikTok that either A, think that they know what they're talking about and actually don't, or B, only know about one thing and like only one portion of that, and just can't justify other reasons or why other people think different ways. So when we were talking about the ethics in the Jubilee video, it was so hard because it's okay, it's hard to justify a lot of these different things, but like how, like the way that we all kept trying to go about it was through like the law system and through what we've learned. It's hard to debate personalities. Obviously,
Yeah.
I feel like it's unethical. You feel like there's certain portions where I could be speaking for you. I don't want to speak for you, but maybe certain portions of it are ethical. It just depends on like how you do it. But I think if we debated, what would have been a good topic? I know we talked about this a couple nights ago.
That was one
Um,
thing I was going to ask you. Did you put any topics that you wanted to talk about when they asked that? Or because I did the same thing Sydney did. I just wrote, I word for word, I literally
mhm.
wrote, no, anything you throw at me is fine, or something like something word for word along the lines of that.
I can't remember if I actually did. I think I did say whatever you guys do is fine. I think I said something about the reconstructive amendments in the Bill of Rights, like the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. Or if they
I was
think,
sad they cut
oh,
that out too.
yeah, when it was like, do these amendments apply to people or citizens? I think that's something that I said for that debate. Because like there are amendments that do state for citizens and some that state for people. But I think that's where I know why they didn't put it in there. Obviously, that kind of conversation, it just takes you into multiple fields that
That's
don't
as
actually
controversial
adhere.
as it gets, that part,
It's
that side of the
extreme.
conversation. Yeah.
It's extremely controversial because it's
Especially
like,
the like, I came with an extremely controversial statement back at you, I think, in that part too,
yeah,
if I remember
yeah.
right.
I think so. And it was like, one thing, actually, you know what? There is one thing I would take back. I would have taken back the 22nd Amendment question that I made, and I would have put a more direct message or question towards due process. So, like habeas corpus. If habeas corpus was taken away, would that be something you support? I think that you and I would both agree, like, if habeas corpus gets taken out, that's not good.
Yeah, there's definitely like people always ask, not people, but like people like Parker and Dean, and like if you're in a debate setting with liberals, one of the best question or one of the most common questions I feel like I get asked is like, what would it take for you to not support Donald Trump? A lot of people just assume everyone who voted for Trump, and I'm not saying you, I'm just saying a lot
Yeah.
of liberals in general will assume everyone who voted for Trump like always voted for Trump. I wasn't able to vote in 2016. I like missed that one by 6 months. 2020, I actually voted for Joe Jorgensen, she was a mom from South Carolina. She was a libertarian.
Oh
I
wow.
considered myself more of a libertarian in college, actually.
Yeah.
And when I was originally planning to vote for Vivek until Vivek wasn't running anymore, and then it kind of slowly was going to RFK, and then I realized RFK was gonna go to Trump's party. And then when I saw Trump got shot and saw him stand up and chant fight, that was the moment. Like I never had problems with Trump's policies. My only problem with Trump ever was the division. I don't think Trump personally causes it now. Like I think maybe back in the day he was more controversial than
Yeah.
he is now with the stuff he says, but I think he's so controversial with the media and like just the name Trump in general. A lot of Democrats hate him so much that it's whether it's Donald Trump, his son, or who it is, if they're in the White House, like obviously there are sane people who are going to see good things he do, but they're like, even if he does good things, there are people who are going to hate him no matter what. Like he could end up saving the world theoretically, and there are people who would still hate him just because his name's Donald Trump. So that's one of the reasons I wasn't going to vote for him at first, because I was just
Hmm.
like, I was done with the divisiveness. But then seeing him get shot and do that, like, really flipped a switch in me. And part of it was religious. I really think that God saved him. Like when you watch the video of his face turning at the only possible second to make that possible for the shot to miss. But yeah, that was what really changed it for me. Like, were you always planning to vote for Joe Biden or Kamala? Or was there like, I know it's hard to say, like, considering third party or independent candidates because there really aren't that great of ones nowadays. But like, were there any you were considering, or was it always kind of Kamala, Joe Biden?
I think that for me, I had an internal struggle when it came to Joe for sure. When Kamala ran, I was like, okay, like I would vote for her because I did some of her policies that came into play. I did like the idea of the child tax credit. I thought that was actually going to be really handy
I
for
love
kids.
the child tax credit.
Oh, beautiful idea. Give like I'm an uncle of 5, and my brother and sister having that extra couple $1,000s in their pocket, like that would be so handy for those kids.
Yeah.
But I think that what they did to her was a disservice by continuously running Joe until July or August. And it was like, at that point, you guys shot yourself in the foot.
Could
You
I
shouldn't.
ask you, do you think that they were running him till then, or do you think he was pushing on? And like, do you think when they removed Joe for Kamala, do you think he willingly stepped down, or do you think that the theory that like Obama and Pelosi kind of pulled him out there? Like they pretty much said, like, we're gonna invoke the, what was it, Sixth Amendment? I forget what amendment.
I think it was the Sixth Amendment.
Sixth Amendment.
Or yeah, or the Sixth
I don't
Amendment in
know.
the executive. I will say, I think that they had a conversation. I think that they talked. I don't
Yeah.
think that it was just one side that was all Biden's idea or it was all Barack and Nancy. But I think that they all had a moment to sit down and be like, listen, Joe, like you're getting to the point where, you know, your age is an issue, your mental fortitude is also an issue. I think that your vice president would be a great option. And I think he was, you remember the scene in Cars where there's a huge crash and you see the guy or see the car like being limped off and he's put me in, coach, I can take it, I can do this.
Yep.
And he looked fucked up. That's what I thought. I thought he really wanted to continue his push because he was doing, and we can argue this if you want to. I think he wasn't doing too bad of a job, especially getting off of COVID. I think COVID definitely was an issue, but he was able to put us in a more positive trajectory from what I saw. And that's why I think that Kamala should not have said, I'm going to continue to go down Joe's path. She should have said, I'm going to go down my path to better the American people. But I think that what they did for her was a huge disservice by having her run in August and not have her run in the beginning of the year because she lost all of that traction. She lost all of that momentum. And I think that if she did do that, it would have been better for her. And I think she might have won. But again, that's a whataboutism or not a whataboutism. That's a what if. That's a what if.
No,
moment.
yeah, I get what you're saying. But no, I also don't disagree with everything Joe Biden did. Like, I know a lot of Republicans just hear the name Joe Biden and just don't, like, same thing as like Donald Trump. Like, they'll hear Donald Trump with some liberals and they just don't care what, like the no tax on tips thing. I think that's something bipartisanly we can all agree is like great for service workers. I thought that should have always been a thing. Like, I think the only way you should tax a tip is if it's pre-factored into the bill. Like, if you're handing me the bill and it says automatic 20% gratuity, you could tax that. But if I'm just handing someone cash or writing in a tip on a bill, that's a gift in my opinion, and gifts should not be taxed. That's just BS.
Didn't he do something with Mexico and NAFTA, like bringing them back together or something like that? I don't remember.
Biden or
Trump back in like the 2016 era. I don't remember what he did. He did something. Trump's
2016 presidency wasn't even like, I think what we're gonna see now in this stretch versus what we saw in 2016 is gonna be like black and white. I think it's almost going to be two completely different presidents.
Yeah.
I think one of Trump's biggest mistakes going into 2016, and most conservatives probably agree with me on this at this point. I don't know about the liberals, but I think he picked the wrong people around him, and the people around him, a lot of them conspired against him, and a lot were, I believe in the deep state. I'm a big believer that whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in office, that there are other powers at play that we can't see as the American people, you know, unnamed 3-letter agencies or whatever they are, government contractors who do things, you know, that in the shadows that really affect the everyday lives of Americans. So, I don't know. It's one of those interesting things to me. I don't know. I kind of want to get your take on, I guess just kind of want to get your take on things with that.
I think for me, it's hard for me to say this because it's like there was a portion of me for a time that believed like in that kind of situation. I know there's been a lot of cases that have been released from the FBI and the CIA that have been like big issues to talk about for sure. But I think that with our legislative, our executive, and even our judicial, I think that we have the ability to better our society and better our history with our government. And I fully believe that the idea is that I can trust certain organizations if they show me all of the evidence and show me all of the details. That's why I'm very surprised, actually, when did you see what happened on Fox with Cash Patel and Bongino, like
Oh my
talking
god,
about
with the Epstein thing?
that was crazy.
That pissed me off. Yeah, that was one of the things I talked about that on my show, I think on Monday briefly, and I like when I air this episode today, there's also going to be like a part after we talk where it's just like me talking about some current event topics, and that's one of the ones that like I already filmed it earlier. That's one of the ones I talked about too, because that's like
do you think that he did or didn't do it? Like he did kill himself or not?
Epstein definitely did not kill himself.
Not even like a portion. Not even a portion of you thinks that, because I
Like
wouldn't
me,
even.
1% because of Murphy's law. What can happen will happen. I can't say it's
Yeah.
100%, but the idea that the two guards fell asleep at the same time that the camera stopped working while he was on suicide watch in a supermax prison and he was able to kill himself at that very moment is like either like God's plan or, like I don't know,
Potential.
like yeah, it's just like it's too many coincidences, and I'm a big believer in like the simplest answer is usually the correct one. Like
Mm.
when there's too many coincidences and too many like different facts and angles, like the simplest answer is usually correct. And it's
Mhm.
not always a, foolproof science, but I don't think I think he was killed. One of the like he got charged with sex trafficking, right?
Mhm.
But besides Ghislaine Maxwell, no one else was arrested. So who is he sex trafficking to? Like that's where I think he's killed, because it's like no
And
one else
that's
got arrested.
Yeah, and I can fully believe that there's other people that have been in that situation. I would love to see the transcripts. I don't know why Trump is trying to keep that.
I read the
Maybe like we'll keep
transcripts
it
of the
secret.
Ghislaine case. Oh my god,
Fucking crazy, right? I nuts, just
it
unbelievably insane.
makes you want to take a cold shower after. It's
Well,
disgusting.
Well, because it's horrendous. It's like,
Yeah.
why would people in that? And I think that with what Trump is doing right now, just being like, no, we're not gonna release this because it's gonna put like a bad image on other people. I say, fuck that. I say you should absolutely show that. I want to see I think that if he does do it before the end of this year, I think personally, and this is going to be a wild take, I think it would flip the midterms only because he's trying to show transparency. But the fact that he's hiding it away, I think is really bad. I don't think it's good.
No,
But
yeah, I think it will come out soon. Like I know Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, has been very big on saying that they're gonna come out with the Epstein files, and it's like that's where things are getting like a little weird for me, and that's where I'll start to question things happening in the conservative party and stuff Donald Trump's doing. Like I think Trump's cabinet should be on the same page. And when Pam
oh,
Bondi is saying that Epstein did not kill himself and Kash Patel is saying he did, I think that's bad. I don't think they should be either of them should be lying, but they should
uh-huh.
definitely be on the same page, and the same page should be the truth. Or if they don't know the truth, I don't think either of them should be making definitive statements in the way they are. But one of them is
Okay.
wrong, and they're both in Trump's cabinet making opposite statements. So I have a huge problem with that for sure.
Yeah,
Like
'cause
I generally don't have a ton of problems with the stuff Trump's cabinet has done, but there are a few instances. Like I thought Mike Waltz should have been fired. Like he's still not fired. He's still just moved in position. But I thought he should have been fired immediately after Signalgate. I thought,
Oh, for sure. You can't.
yeah, like
When you're part of the administration, okay, and and this is, and I like, trust me, I'd be in the same corner as you if this happened in any other administration that's on the left. If highly classified documents are being thrown around, battle plans, war plans, whatever you want to call them, if that kind of stuff got leaked, oh my God, I would be so fucking pissed, because it's like, why the fuck are you guys just, why are you just releasing that out into the world? Like
for me, as
now,
much as it's about that, one of the things that I don't like too is it was an Israeli version of the Signal chat. Like that was a weird thing to me. Like I don't know why he wasn't even using like the American version. He was using it on like an Israeli server, which was just like another like weird thing. Like why is someone in our government using the server of another country? I
like
just
we
it's one of
we
those things
shouldn't
where I
have that
want
kind of information.
transparency on.
Now,
There are some weird things that like it's on
yeah.
both sides of the aisle. Like I feel like I always have to call it out because I didn't have my podcast when Biden was in office. I wish I did because I feel like the content would have been funnier because I would have just came from that angle. But it's on Twitter, I was loud always about calling out like all the things I didn't like about Biden. So I can't like not call those things out. And like I got in beef with thousands of this was crazy. I went to ACDC in Tampa a week ago with my buddies. I sent out a tweet right before, and I walk out of the concert, and I've had like a few drinks at the concert or whatever, and I have thousands of replies from conservatives all mad at me because do you know who the Krasenstein brothers are? I'm probably
Yeah.
mispronouncing that. They're on
Yeah.
Twitter, Brian and Ed. So they tweeted, did you hear the whole James Comey 8647 thing?
Yeah.
So that was my take on it is he's in a high power position, so he should be careful about the words he said, but in no way
Mhm.
is that a threat. It's a restaurant term used to, like, 86 the fries. We're out of fries.
Yeah.
Either dispose of or we're out of it. It's like a impeachment. And also at the same time,
Right.
conservatives were selling 8646 shirts. So like
Right.
they
Right.
tweeted out 8647. They had the Secret Service. Like I understand maybe the Secret Service going to Comey's for like a brief 2-minute check-in at his door to ask him a question because he was
Uh-huh.
the FBI director. And like I said, I think people in high power positions should be careful about things they say when they can be interpreted by like we do have crazy people that exist. Like people are going to take things high power people say and just run with them in any way they want. So like I do
Mhm.
get that. But when it's someone like the Krasen, like they live in my town. Like we both live in Lee County, Florida.
Oh
It's
shit.
yeah, like the fact that like Secret Service showed up at their door is astronomical. Like that should not have happened. And I like think it was something that went too far. Like I didn't like that at all. And when I wrote that, I said like this is a restaurant term. Like as a conservative who's consistently in your mentions telling you how much I disagree with you, I agree
Mhm.
with you here that this was an overreach by any legal system to try and target you on this. And
Yeah.
the amount of hate I got on conservatives is pretty crazy on that. And I was
Yeah.
able to just like go like the more sane ones were, agreeing with me like the same way. Just anyone who worked in a restaurant, I feel like agrees with me. The more sane ones did, but then yeah, you do have those crazy ones where I mean they were ripping my head off about it. Like people were
Mhm.
hating it.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest issue. I think that's why I like listening to what you're saying because it's like you do have, and this is actually what's making. I think this is what would make a really interesting case for you is that like you're a conservative who is able to be like, guys, let's lighten the load a little bit. This isn't as crazy you guys are making it out to believe. I think that is actually really helpful for you in your regard because it's like you're able to combat like what they're saying because it's like guys like we said this before also 86 doesn't mean that we're gonna just ice the dude. We're just gonna they just want to impeach him. They just
That's
don't
what
they
that's what I tweeted
like
out. I said this
that's just
isn't
what they
a
want to do.
Scorsese movie. This is real
Right.
life. I said like
Right.
eight like again like if I heard like Robert De Niro in Heat say we're gonna 86 this guy like yeah like I think they're gonna kill him because like again,
Yeah.
it's just overusing a restaurant term, but you could take terms and make them mean other things. It happens all the time. Like, go to, not that I'm encouraging people to go to your local high schools and middle schools, but listen to the slang kids use. They didn't exist 2 years ago, and it just, words evolve, and people stretch things and they change them, and it's just how language has always worked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was a huge overreach as well. And that was
Yeah.
probably to date, that's my biggest issue that Trump has done. But the fact
Yeah.
that that's my biggest issue, also, I think like I also don't think a lot of the other things he did were issues that liberals do. But I think that's a good sign for me because I do think a lot of the things he did were positive. Like we would completely disagree on like the USAID thing, but I think that was like also I I, I think the media like to like it wasn't US it wasn't like yeah, it wasn't US aid. It was like USA ID. Like if you had to like actually say how the acronym would be pronounced, like USA ID, not like US aid. And like all
Mhm.
the media companies would say like US aid. And like to me, that made it sound like they were just trying to sound like Trump was getting rid of aid versus like what it actually was. But I know like
Mhm.
liberals and conservative definitely disagree on Doge. But like Elon Musk in general, I'm curious on your thoughts on him. Do you
He's
yeah,
got a
like
lot
what are
of
your overall thoughts? And then I'll ask more specific
well, I was gonna
questions.
say, I think you probably know what my thoughts are gonna be on that. I think that having him in there and he's not, I think it's a lot of overreach. I think it's, and if anybody else did this, and I'm new to the game, so it's like if Biden did this, if Obama did this, I wouldn't agree with it either. If Bush did this, I wouldn't agree with it. But I don't think that we should have any kind of overreach when it comes to our government, because our government is the most important thing that we have when it comes to keeping our inalienable rights intact. I don't think that Doge should. I think what we should have is what you guys, I think, because John said this already, you guys have the trifecta. So if you have the trifecta
Weak
should.
one, but we have it.
You still have, right.
Yeah.
You still got it, which is good for you guys. So like in that regard, I would say then if you have the trifecta already, at that point you should be like, okay, we're going to find the waste, fraud, and abuse that we're talking about. We're not going to set up something like Doge, who's going to do it for us, who has from these people that Elon is essentially putting into power that we have no idea who it could potentially be. And I think that with what Elon was doing was basically just from what the world is showing, they're just taking his business and just throwing it asunder, literally and figuratively. I was never gonna buy a Tesla. I don't like electric vehicle cars. I'm a 64 Impala guy. That's my go-to car. Anyways.
That's a good car.
It's a nice car, man.
I had a Tesla
nice
before Elon was in office. I drive like 30,000 miles a year. So if I don't have an electric car, I'm paying $1,000 a month in gas. So like I've had it for then, and I just do the at-home charging. I spend like $100 a month on it. It's nice. Oh my God, saves me so much money. Yeah,
I was gonna say it probably says
Yeah, like I mean, I also live in the place with the worst drivers in the country. I live in Naples, Florida. I am on my 4th car since I've been here, and it's all because so the first one, I had an old guy with a Porsche run a stop sign, T-bone me, and he paid out nicely. I had a crappy car, he had a Porsche. He wanted to handle it cash. He didn't want to use insurance, so that was nice. But then the next one, I had someone just take the same thing kind of from the back. They didn't run a stop sign, but they just rammed right into me. Then I had someone chop the catalytic converter out of one of my cars when I was in a Walmart parking lot. Oh, dude, that was a nightmare. And then it's one of the craziest things. Like I was in the Walmart for 15-20 minutes. I was picking up just some groceries or like something, and I come out and like, what's going on with my car?
Those things are expensive, and they're really good to sell on the market. Like they have a lot of like,
and they're easy to move apparently.
Yeah, I worked at an Applebee's over by Detroit, and it was I parked right in the fucking spot where nobody could see my car. And like, I go in, I'm there for an hour, if anything. And I'm like, fuck, I forgot my phone at my house. Is it okay I go get it? They were very chill. They're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, we don't have anybody. So I get in my car, and then what the fuck? It was an Alero. Like an Alero should not be sounding like a drag racing car. So
they do have some electric cars that sound like they put in the sounds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I was like, what the fuck? And so yeah, but I get that. It's one of those things where it's with Elon. I think what he's doing is a little bit. Not even a little bit. It's too much. I think Trump should keep the administration that he has, if that's the case. But he should have professionals that have been in the business and that know what like our government is and how our government is run. And I think that having someone like a CEO or a billionaire that isn't a part of the administration in the office all the time, being like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, that's way too much overreach, in my personal opinion.
Do you think Tim Walz was a good pick for the VP? Or do you think they could have made a better pick?
I don't know Walz enough. And that's the problem.
That's a good answer.
I don't know Walz enough to actually make a cohesive like statement. And that's probably the most discerning part. If Kamala picks someone like Pete Buttigieg, I at least know who he is and what he's done. And I'd be like, okay, that's a pretty good pick. He's a very level-headed individual. He does the same thing that we do, where we listen to people that ask questions. We discuss the questions. We try and ascertain like what they're meaning. And I think he would have been a very good VP. And if we're going to go off of, if we're going to go off of like the demographic kind of asset that, you know, the people, members on the left love to do, which I don't mind having, because I personally don't mind it. He's a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. Hell yeah, that's a good way of kind of like showing things. I think that Tim Walz, if I heard of him a little bit more, I would be supportive of it. But like, he's at 50-50. I just don't know much about him, and that's my fault. I should be a little bit more involved in that kind of political world. But yeah, I would have chosen Pete.
I don't know why. He reminds me of like a Modern Family character for some reason. Like I don't know. Like it seems
Mm,
like I don't know. It feels like not in like the stuff he does is crazy hilarious, but it just feels like sometimes I'm in a sitcom when I'm watching him. Like there's some stuff he does that I do agree with when he says, and I think like the debate between him and Vance was probably way better than the debate between Kamala and Trump. Like I
oh, for
think
sure.
when Vance and Waltz were able to, agree on things and like come together and all that, like that's kind of what America needs. Like I'm a big believer that we shouldn't be agreeing all the time. I think if we're agreeing all the time, then like we're probably in a 1984 type scenario. We're all pretty brainwashed. It's hard for every American to agree on everything. Like you need that back and
Hmm.
forth a little bit,
Hmm.
but you do need, unity. Like we love to say diversity is our strength, and diversity can be a strength, but I think unity is a really big strength as well.
Mm.
And we just need that unity of just seeing two people being able to, agree about things, whether politics or not. And that's why I really like the JD Vance, Mike Waltz debate. I like JD Vance a lot too. I like politicians who are in the military service. I'm a big believer that every politician should have had to have done a deployment at some point. Every person who runs for president. It's a pretty rare take. Most people, I mean, I actually think I think there should be way stricter laws of who can vote and not. I mean, I have some crazier out there takes of stuff
I was
like
gonna,
that,
yeah.
but
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with like having some sort of either militaristic or just governmental understanding and like experience. I don't want to run for president. I know that I wouldn't do a good job as a president, but it's because I haven't been a mayor, I haven't been a governor, a senator, member of the House. Like I haven't been in any of those kind of fields. So how the hell am I supposed to know how to run a country? Um,
yeah.
and it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. If the commander in chief is the commander in chief and they have an understanding of the military, like having somebody that at least knows or has been around and understood the importance of the military and like what we can and can't do, I think is a very important thing to have. And yeah, I think that if it was, and this is gonna be a wild take for sure, I think that the JD Vance, Tim Walz presidential run would have been a much harder and closer race,
Oh
I
yeah.
think.
Oh my lord, yeah. Yeah.
Any way that you slice it, but I do fully agree. Like, I think that the Vance and the Waltz conversation was just a lot. It was so much nicer to listen to. It was
Yeah.
so much nicer to see the decorum provided by the two of them. They both want basically the same thing. They just don't, they just want just different ways of doing it. That's why I love our Jubilee video because we do have disagreements. We did get a little spicy. We all got spicy with one another. But at the end of the day, it's just because we all want the same thing. We all
Yeah.
want just the best outcome for ourselves and the people around us.
Yeah. No, I think they're a lot more level-headed. I think Kamala and Trump are both so controversial in the media with like I mean like you're never going to catch Fox News saying nice things about Kamala the same way you're never going to catch CNN saying nice things about Trump. But after that debate, you did see both sides of the media saying kind of exactly what we're saying. Like that was a wholesome thing we witnessed last night. Like they had a
Mhm.
special moment talking about, I think there was a moment where like Tim Waltz talked about one of his children who was at a school shooting. So
Mhm.
yeah, like there was some really touching moments from it that I don't know. I think when you have stuff like that, it's a kind of like healing for America. Just like
Yeah.
as you're all watching it together, you just all get that same feeling inside of like, okay, like, yeah, we disagree on everything, but like the same way, we're talking right now. Like we could put all that aside and just realize you're a person, I'm a person, and we just want what's best for the world and ourselves.
Yeah. Do you think that, and I think this is something that would be a good conversation to have. Do you think that the media, just media in general, whether it's mainstream or not, do you think that they are doing more harm or doing more good when it comes to the ways that they show specific topics? So, for example, the bill that just passed in the House, do you think that members of the right and the left are showing it accurately, or do you think that they're just doing like their one sided kind of
Yeah, I mean,
nonsense?
everyone's gonna have their own bias, and everyone's gonna always go for clicks and headlines, and like that's how like the algorithm picks things up nowadays. So like everyone's gonna gear it towards that a little bit to make money, or they want to hurt something, or whatever their intentions are. So I think there are very few who are going to give that honest take, and it's really hard to weed them out because they change all the time. It's always evolving, and it's really hard to follow a lot of the people in the House and the Senate like you follow the president. But I think the legacy media, like even Fox, like I think Fox, CNN, MSNBC, I think all of them, they're not dead because they're still on air, but I think they're dead in credibility after the pandemic. I think the pandemic, like, no matter what anyone's opinion on it is, I think everybody found at least one thing they couldn't trust about the government from the pandemic, and
Mhm.
it set everyone to a slightly more aware setting. Like, I'm a lot more aware of anything I put in my body now than I was then, and I am a lot more aware about my health and my heart health and just different. Like, I don't know, if the government was to ever say like, okay, stay in your house again, I wouldn't just listen immediately. I would question it and, like, given the circumstances, listen. But it's just one of those things where I feel like we adopted it so fast, and, like, no matter what side you're on, there was one part of COVID everyone hated and rubbed the wrong way involving the government.
Yeah, and I would say if anything, the struggle is. See, this is hard for me because I have a mom who is part of the health industry, so to speak. She was an echocardiologist. She looks at people's hearts. So she's in the hospital all the time. So she sees all of these things happening. And for me, I completely understood. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to stay indoors as much as I possibly can. And she's like, you should take the vaccine. It's very important. It's cool. I'm going to do that. And then doing those things, like I felt safe. I felt good. I felt connected. I was like, all right, cool, cool. I'm in a good position. Um, but then seeing both sides in the news saying you should stay inside, you shouldn't stay inside, you should protect yourself, you shouldn't protect yourself. It becomes a thing where it's okay, so are we doing this? Are we not doing this? Should we not? And I think that was the biggest problem in 2020 was both sides of the aisle not having a definitive, hey, we're going to stay inside or we're going to stay outside. We're going to protect ourselves or we're not going to protect ourselves. But I will say I think other people on the left will agree with me on this. Operation Warp Speed? What was it called? Where like in response to COVID, he did Operation Warp Speed, which like helped just accelerate the vaccines and the diagnostics and everything. I think that was a really great thing that I didn't hear him say it in 2020 as much when he was doing the debates. I think that if he kept running on that and been like, listen, like I understand the idea of not trusting the government, not trusting these things, but like this was a big thing that helped the country. This Operation Warp Speed was a good thing, and a lot of people on either side should agree that having as much of that medicine at that time was a pretty smart thing. But yeah, that's why
Yeah,
I
I think
stopped
COVID
listening
was like
to
a really weird thing where it was.
it.
Oh,
Made
what were you
people
saying? I'm
very
sorry, it like
polar.
cut out, so I thought you were done there.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah.
It made a lot of people very polarized. I would say that was probably the biggest struggle was like we should not be separating each other, but rather actually connecting each other in this crazy global catastrophe. But it was just for some people, whether it's right or left, it was just a political chip, and it's like, man, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's sad when things become political that shouldn't be. I think COVID was one of those things that we could have bipartisanly just made not political. But I mean, nowadays it's really hard because everything, like, it doesn't matter what happens. It, like, something like Leonardo DiCaprio could crash a car and it's going to be political tomorrow somehow. Like,
Yeah.
everything's going to end up political in some way, which is kind of sad to think about, just because
Mhm.
it really just comes from the clicks and, like, what the algorithms pick up. I do think social media companies probably need to take more responsibility for their algorithms and the way they promote things. Like, I do think they need to get the
Mhm.
news out to people as much as possible, but I think the way that the algorithms pick up negative politics over positive politics is really bad. I have you ever seen the
Yeah.
movie? It's a Zac Efron movie. It's one of my favorites. The Greatest Beer Run Ever. It's a Vietnam War movie.
I have not seen that movie yet, actually.
Recommend
That
watching it.
sounds
It's a
interesting.
Zac Efron movie, true story. It's probably slightly loosely based, but it's a true story about a kid from Boston who just wants to bring all his friends from Vietnam a beer just to let him know he's thankful for them. Great movie.
Interesting.
Oh, it's on Apple TV if you haven't watched it. You should
I'll,
definitely. To be
I'll have to
honest, I
look at
forgot
that.
exactly what I was saying right before that, but it had to do with my point.
Uh,
trying to think now.
It was something about oh God, I can't even remember. I think it was something with the media for sure. Shit.
Oh yeah, it was. God, how am I drawing a blank? Yeah. Either way, we could just go on to the next thing. One thing I wanted to ask you on both sides, so Republican and Democrat, excluding Trump and Vance, and like
Okay.
cabinet members, so like elected officials, excluding Trump and Vance. Give me two politicians on the Democratic side you would like to remove from their positions if you had the ability to like wave a magic wand and they weren't elected, and two on the Republican side.
Oh shit, that's really easy. I think is Mitch McConnell still in position? Yeah, he is. He's a senator.
I think technically, yeah, he should be gone. I mean, the fact that he had 2 seizures publicly is so sad, but he should be
Mitch McConnell should just happily retire. He's done his duties. I respect it fully, but you're 83.
If you're having seizures and freezing up, you gotta walk.
He was a child when we finished World War II. It's okay, like I totally get it. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, definitely those two. I understand like the quote unquote powers that be, but just anybody that is at that age where it's okay, you are way above the retirement age. I appreciate you working for us, but nah. I will say, let me see if I were to pick another one from. Let me see. I have to look at.
One of the most untalked about Pelosi things too is that her family was mafia. Like her dad was deep in the Italian mob. I'm pretty sure he was a made man.
That's fucking crazy gangster shit, like right there. I will say, I know that it's wild. It's a wild statement to make, but I feel like.
I mean, like that's why she is such like a lot of people have problems with the insider trading. I do too. I think that anyone in our government and it's Republicans who do it too. I think anyone in our government who's doing it is wrong, but at the same time, this is a controversial take that not a lot of people like, but I make it publicly. I think that while loopholes there, expose it. Like it would never get shut down if Nancy Pelosi didn't. Like eventually they'll shut it down and it will be called the Nancy Pelosi bill or something along the lines of that. And that's what needs to happen. But while it's raining, catch it. Like I don't know, like while the sun's shining.
I fully believe that, and honestly, it's like one of those things where it's like, I'm looking at the house right now. On your side of the aisle, it's a little bit hard for me. I'd say Lauren Boebert just because she has exemplified personal traits that don't align with your ideology. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that.
I think she would be good to be like, okay, thank you, but no thank you. Like they would vote for somebody else. But it's hard to say because I would much rather pick people that I would want to uplift. Rand Paul on your side is a really good choice to be like an uplifting voice.
Who worked on the Rand Paul campaign in 2012? No, Lori. In 2012, really? I was in middle school. Yeah. Lori worked on Rand Paul's campaign in 2012. She's good friends with him.
Crazy.
Lori actually has like a crazy amount of like weird experience, and in like a non-debate setting, like I had her on my podcast earlier the week, and like it's crazy different in the setting of just talking to her versus debating her. It really is almost like two different Loris. It's like you see a fire come out of her when she debates. Like I mean, you saw it firsthand because it was you and her were going at it a lot.
Yeah, we were. Actually, that's a question I want to ask you. Who would be somebody that you would want to uplift on? Because like I could pick almost on
the Republican Party. Who would I want to uplift?
Republican and Democrat. Who would you want to be like the voice of the parties?
I wish Vivek Ramaswamy got elected. I wish he didn't get blackballed by the Republican Party, and I think he will have a future in the party. Possibly, I'm unclear of who the next candidates will be on both sides, actually. I have ideas and guesses, but my guesses are as good as shit, in my opinion. But yeah, I would like to see Vivek Ramaswamy. I really think he's a smart guy. I think he's really common sense based, which I like. And I think he's really well spoken. Like he did one of those meetings with Charlie Kirk where they went to a college, and like Charlie was doing his usual thing where he's like kind of going at the college kids. But the conversations with Vivek, when you listen to them, are way different. Vivek takes like a different tone, and like he's no matter what, even if the person comes with like, if a person came up and said like, I want to kill Trump, he's still going to try and find something he relates with them on, which I find interesting. He's always looking for something to relate with them in like a way that he can bring the parties together. So I like him for that a lot. And I liked him in the debate versus like one of the people I hate was, what was her name? What was the Republican from South Carolina? Why can't I think of it?
Let's see if I can pull up.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm drawing a blank right now. She was like top 3 in Canada in the candidates
Oh, this was back in South Carolina,
for
20.
this last election. Yeah, she used to work for Boeing, and then oh my God, how am I drawing a blank on her name?
Republican primaries 2024. Let me see. Oh, fuck. Was it Haley?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I hated her. I really. I'm a pretty anti-war guy. Like I know Republicans in the past have been not pro-war, but they were never really anti-war. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
pretty big anti-war guy. I do think war is necessary because I understand history, but I don't think any of the wars we've really had over the last 20, almost 30 years around the world have been necessary. Like few and very few. Like there's little nations who have fought for freedom and things like that, which I understand,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the wars should have just, either been avoided altogether, either that we got into or just between other countries. I think that preserving the life of young men and children, and I don't know, I think it's one of the saddest things, especially like the Russia one specifically. The death numbers there are, the media doesn't talk about it a lot, but I mean the death numbers when the history books will be so scary to see one day.
Yeah, 100%. Who would you want to see on the Democratic side lifted up? Who would be someone that you would want to
Yeah,
see
that's
as
a
like
good
a,
one.
yeah.
I on the Democratic side right now, who do I like? Let's see. Hmm. I kind of what's her name? There's a woman named Nikki Fried. I could be pronouncing it wrong. It could be Nikki Fried. She's from Florida. She was the Department of Agriculture. She was the head of the Department of Agriculture until 2022 in Florida.
Uh-huh. I see
And
her, I
I
see her
think
here.
she's actually running for governor.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily vote for her over the Republican Party, but I did work in the agriculture industry and still do in Florida. And I loved her. I actually met her once. A very smart woman, very quick, very reasonable as well. And for a Democrat is very pro business, which I like. I think a lot of people don't like the idea of like Trump's tax cuts with businesses because businesses avoid taxes as it is already.
Mm.
But in my opinion, as a business owner and someone who's employed people, businesses are what progress society forward. The more businesses you have, the more employment you're going to have in your country. The bigger businesses you have, the more employment as well, and job growth and things of that nature. So I'm a big believer in when you do make those tax cuts, while yes, it does give benefits to the business owners financially, it also improves room for them to hire more people and grow at bigger rates. So
Yeah.
that's the side of it I really love. But yeah, I would like to see Nikki Fried. She's one a lot of people haven't heard of. She's younger but very smart, very quick, and someone, yeah, I could see myself voting for if it was against the right candidate.
I like, you know what? I rock with that heavy. That's awesome. I think that's awesome of you.
She's got a lot of really good positions. And like I said, I met her and she's very, so I've met a few politicians in Florida. I met DeSantis once very briefly. I wish I got to talk to him more. I talked to him for about a minute. Again, very smart, very quick. And I met Matt Gaetz for probably 30 seconds. Like I was literally passing him on a sidewalk and just shake his hand.
Yeah.
But he seemed like a nice guy as well. But yeah, Nikki Fried was the one I talked to the longest. Very personal. Like she took the time to I feel like get to know me. Like I told her I was in the agriculture business, so she got to know about my business. And yeah, I mean, and all the laws she made surrounding it was the hemp and THC business in Florida. She would make very reasonable laws surrounding it
I was
compared to the
reading,
new person in there.
I was gonna say, I'm reading it right now. I think that, listen, I don't know. Actually, what is Ron DeSantis' decision on this, on hemp and everything? Oh,
He
that,
actually is very
oh,
pro. He's very pro. So DeSantis actually saved my
yeah,
butt last year because he vetoed the bill
yeah, I
that would
see
have
that.
shut down the industry.
Smart move, honestly,
But
because
it was less because here's the thing, if Nikki Fried was there, that bill never would have made it. That's one of the things I love about Nikki is they tried to introduce that bill multiple times under Nikki and it never made it past her. Now they've introduced it every single March since she's been out of office, which is an absolute headache for my business.
it's like they're trying to make it to where they're like just trying to take over and not necessarily regulate it, but restrict it heavily.
It's
I was
where
reading.
it's where this is where corrupt money comes in. It's
Hmm.
You want to know who wrote that bill and who wrote the bill last year for it? I'll give
Who
you
wrote
one guess. It's a marijuana company.
who?
Trulieve. Trulieve paid, I think it was between 180 and 200 million to get that bill on the ballot, and then it failed
Oh,
spectacularly.
thank God.
Yeah,
Thank
it
God.
was so Florida technically already has legal weed. It's not advertised, but
Right.
they already have it, and it's untaxed. Like it's taxed with sales tax, but there's no special tax on it. It's just called THCA, not THC.
Hmm.
THCA is just THC.
Yeah.
And yeah, they just don't advertise that. But that's one of the businesses I work in. And Nikki, I always feel bad if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So I don't know if it's Nikki Fried or Fried. It's spelled Fried, but it makes more
I think.
sense that it would be Fried.
Yeah, sounds like. See, I'm trying to get
But
her.
yeah, I mean, she's great. And she's a Democrat I would love. Like, one of the things when I think about like Democrats and Republicans, I think about nowadays is thinking about who the next candidates will be. On the Republican side, I genuinely have no clue if it's going to be JD Vance or Don Jr. I think it will be one of the two. I think it would be hard to see someone outside the two. And I think the Trumps are going to want to keep the Trump family in politics. Like I could see Barron being, running at 35 years old. But for the Democratic side, it almost gets more interesting because I've seen the tickets I've seen people talk about so far is another Kamala Waltz ticket or a Kamala someone ticket. I've
Mhm.
seen an AOC and Bernie ticket, which I think that would be a disaster. I just think AOC is too over emotional to run the country personally. Like she loves to just outlandishly yell at people, and I don't
I
know.
think.
I mean, like Trump
I think
kind
that
of
they
does that
just.
too, but
I think they just had
I
their
don't know.
time. I think they just had their time. Same thing with Bernie Sanders. They've just had their time
I
in
think
the
Bernie
office.
is I don't think we should be touching social. Like, I don't think the USA should be going towards socialism. And I think that's what Bernie is. And I think that, like, when you're young and you hear free college, it's exciting. But then when you're older and you realize that nothing is actually free, it's paid by somebody, then it seems less exciting. And, like, same thing, like the healthcare, like, there could be a lot of really good aspects to free healthcare, but then at the same time, like I'd rather my doctors be incentivized to be good over like if doctors are paid a lot, they're going to be incentivized to be more doctors versus, if like doctors are making a median base salary because healthcare is free and you can't
Mhm.
overpay doctors anymore, it's really going to disincentivize like the best people to get into medicine, which is sad to me. And like the idea of like having to wait for, like if healthcare is free, I'd imagine it's going to be like I would go to the doc. Like I don't go to the doc. It's not I don't, but like I mean I got to be dying to go to the doctor. Like it's
I
not
think
like
it's yeah. I think it's one of those struggles where it's from having the ability to have both wouldn't be a terrible idea. Like having, in my personal opinion, like having a public option for schooling and a private option for schooling, both in college and in high school and under, I think is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to do that. Like you said, the problem comes where it's the distribution of the money. Where are we going to get the money? How are we going to do it?
yeah.
And I think
And just
the,
yeah, the quality of work you'll get from that, I think.
right. It's like, how do we determine that? I think that should be the question. It is, okay, so this is what we're looking for. How are we going to do it? And for me, I think that when it comes to the importance of education, like we should do everything in our power to find a way to make it to where it's the best way possible, whether it's free or at least cheaper than what it is. But at the same time, like how to show the breakdowns of it all? And I would be perfectly okay with the idea of having some sort of close-ish to free kind of thing because it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money going into school for a quarter or going into it for a year. But yeah, it's how are we going to do it for our money? Like, where are we going to get it from? And I think that cutting away from, different types of spending and focusing on spending on getting back away from our trillions of dollars in debt, trying to bring that down somehow, trying to see like how we can build that back up, bring in more technologically advanced businesses here. I think you would agree that having what you're doing right now, like that would be a really great business to accrue. I just actually was just reading on Nikki's website. What is she for hemp specifically? In just 1 year, They generated like $370 million in economic impacts.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one of the biggest industries in Florida to like it's
Mhm.
grown. When I got to Florida, I started my business in West Virginia when I was at college. I went to West Virginia University, but then I quickly moved it down to Florida during the pandemic. And when I got to Florida, there was probably 5,000 businesses doing this all across Florida, and now there's upwards of 35,000, maybe close to 50.
Mm.
It's really like Florida and Texas are two of the biggest states for like the hemp THC products and all that stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, Nikki Fried was, I mean, without her, my business would not be where it is today. So I owe her an
Yeah.
extreme debt of gratitude for
Yeah.
her reasonability with her laws. And I think, like I said, I think she's just a really smart person who understands economic growth. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think every person who gets into politics fully understands the economic side of it. I think she really understands like what drives an economy in a state. Maybe not on a full country level, but I could see her being the governor of a state. Like, I
Yeah.
really could. She's really smart, and she has a very long career in politics ahead of her.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally respect it. When it comes to that too, would you vote? I know you said that if there was somebody that was better than, if there wasn't anybody better than Nikki, you would vote for Nikki. But if there was like a better Democratic president, would you do that? Let's say like when Trump,
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem. I'm a vote for the best candidate person. I think the debates are the most important thing. Debates and long form content. I didn't think long form. I'll get to that right after because that's a whole topic in itself. But I want us to talk about like Joe Rogan and long form and the
oh
impact
yeah,
that had. But yeah, I really think like if there was a Democrat who got up there and aligned with my values, I would have no problem voting for them. I don't like specifically align myself with the Republican Party. I think there's Republicans, conservatives, liberals, and Democrats, and I'm conservative for sure. Like I I have set values and beliefs that I don't like to stray away from,
mhm,
and they don't always align with the Republican Party, but they do align with more religious values. I feel generally stemming from like I said, I was raised Catholic, so a lot of it's stemming from that. A lot of it's stemming from like where I grew up. I grew up near New York City, so everyone was always like business oriented, those things. So yeah, I think like if someone was able to align with my views, and it's also like I'm not like set in the Republican Party in the sense of like if I saw the Republican Party doing things I really hated, I'm one of those people who would call it out. Like
yeah,
I called out Peter Hegseth when I saw him take a lowball drink at the podium. Like no one should be drinking in a public setting in the government. Like that was crazy.
yeah,
Like I called out the Mike Waltz thing repeatedly. I called out the 8647 thing. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things. So like I have no problem ever calling it out. I just think that it would a lot would have to happen for it to get to there. Like I think right now where we're at with Democrats and Republicans, they're so far on the opposite, and there's few who are really in the middle.
yeah.
But
It
what
sounds
about
like
you?
you're
Like same thing.
Yeah, there's gotta be somebody that you can communicate with that's going to be giving you, or not communicating, that you support, that's going to be giving you the things that you're looking for. I think one of the biggest struggles is if a Democrat is somebody that is going to be voting against my interests. Yeah, I'm going to pick somebody else that's not going to be like that for me. I know that there's tons of different. I don't know who's going to run. I don't know who's going to run next year, but it was unfortunate.
Do you think that Stephen A. Smith would be a good candidate?
Oh, no way. He's too fiery of a person. I feel like even though he's got like that kind of emotion, like emotional
I
to
think
it.
he's a very good at analyzing things. I don't think he would be good in the war room. I
Yeah,
couldn't see that. Yeah.
the war room's going to be the biggest struggle for sure. I think if there was going to be anybody, I'm looking at the Senate Democrats right now. If I was going to pick anybody, I'd have to look into them, obviously. But who was it that I just saw? The guy from Nevada, Stephen Horsford. I think he's got a lot of fiery moments, but he's got a good head on his shoulders. I think that he would be a really good choice for somebody to go forward. But I just want there to be somebody, like you said, that just goes by my values, that has a better understanding of. I want there to be freedoms for all, the right to choose, the right to self-expression, the right to freedom of speech, be able to protect yourself, due process. Like I'm fully like a guy that's on the left but believes in the Constitution immensely, and I want somebody to have that same belief with me on my side of the aisle. And honestly, I would probably vote for Nikki if she ran, because the whole
Oh,
idea of
she will
like,
one day.
oh, I hope so, because shit, I'd vote for her. She's got, from just reading her website, oh my God, she'd be a great choice.
She's if you ever get a chance to listen to her talk live, you should go to it. It's usually
Uh,
really cheap, and it's like I said, she'll take the time to talk to you and get to know you if you get that
I,
like one-on-one with her. She's great.
I would love that, honestly. I think we both are in agreement for Nikki if she ever runs. She'd be a great
Yeah,
choice.
I love Nikki. I think Nikki's, like I said, one of the best in Florida, especially on the Democratic side.
Yeah.
This is me biasly talking. I'd like to think Florida produces better Democrats than the rest of the country, but that's just me
Well,
biasly talking.
I was gonna say it. Yeah, yeah, I totally respect it. Yeah, but you said something about you said Joe Rogan and long form
Yeah,
content. Is that
I
what you
want to
said?
talk about like the impact I think that had and get your take on it. So I think one of the ways the Democrats, like, I think podcasts have become the new like people get their news now from podcasts, TikTok, and Twitter. Like people are, our generation at least, like they're not watching the news that much. Like they'll scroll TikTok for 30 minutes and get more news than like most people get in a week. It's crazy the consumption of news and like the growth of podcasts. And I think when Trump and Kamala both had the option to go on Joe Rogan and only Trump did, I thought it I thought it did two things. I thought one, it made Kamala look weak, and I thought it was a big reason she lost the election because it looked like to a lot of Republicans and independents that she was unwilling to talk for 3 hours
Yeah,
unedited,
yeah,
which is a kind of scary thought. And
yeah.
then the other thing I think it did is I think it gave Joe Rogan a insane amount of power. So I think now I would imagine, unless Joe Rogan says he just is not going to do it, but I think for every election now, if you do not do the Joe Rogan podcast, the chance of you getting elected is almost nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe that will switch one day to someone else's podcast, but he just has the biggest, he was like the first one. Like he has the biggest show in the country by far. Like one episode of his gets more views than a month of CNN views or Fox News or any social or anything like that. So
Mm.
do you think do you think that's true that like if you don't go on Joe Rogan in the future, you're almost, at least for the time being, it's almost like it's a weak move, I guess.
I would say for just anybody, like you should be able to sit down with anyone that's got that kind of large viewing. So if she didn't go on Joe, but she went on Ben Shapiro or something, I feel like, okay, you know what? She's sticking her neck out in the political world and it is showing herself. I think that's great. Now, putting yourself in front of a Joe Rogan audience, absolutely. I think she should still do that. I think that everybody, like you said before, podcasting is now becoming the wave of communication. It's the way of talking and like figuring things out. I think that is a wonderful way to get your voice heard. And Kamala not doing that, I think, is a huge misstep because that is that's a whole voting block, so to speak, that not many people actually go through when you're on the left side of the spectrum. There's tons of political voices that are out there, but not being on something like a Joe Rogan podcast or a Ben Shapiro podcast or just any of these kind of conversations where you're combating with each other over these ideas, like that's a big red flag. You should want to be
Yeah.
able to communicate your opinions on things.
Like all of
And
us with no media training were able to sit there and talk for 3-4 straight hours on camera. So it's like
right,
it's crazy to me that like people like us can do it, but like politicians who like this is their job and career, like still even on the Republican side they do it. Like Mitch
yeah,
McConnell is one of my biggest things. I don't hate him as a person. I hate him as a politician.
yeah,
There's a lot of people I hate as politicians. I don't hate as people. And Mitch McConnell is one of the biggest ones. And so is Nancy Mace as well on the Republican side.
yeah.
I think Nancy Mace needs to, she's awful. She needs to stop talking. Like she needs to, someone needs to just take her phone. Like it's her tweeting is just, it's so negative for the Republican Party. It's so, she makes us look so bad. I think the equivalent to like Nancy Mace is like Elon Omar to you guys. Like, I don't know what your thoughts on her are, but like, I think Elon Omar is like one of the worst people in our government. Like, if there were people I could remove on the Democratic side, it would definitely be Elon Omar
Mm,
and either Bernie or AOC, but probably Bernie. I think he's worse. But yeah, Elon Omar, I think, just hates America. And I don't
Mhm.
think anyone who works in the government should hate America.
I don't know much about her, so I can't really express like how I feel about her. I think that if you dislike America, like I would like to know the reasons as to why, and if it's like if it's America or if it's like some of the values or the legislations that have been placed, sure, I can understand that or things like
Yeah.
that. I don't fully know who she is as a person, but I'll definitely look into her. But yeah,
Oh,
I
I'll
think
text you her highlight reel. It's a
oh no.
nightmare.
But yeah, I think one of the biggest struggles is just being able to sit down and just talk about the things that you believe in and being able to sit in front of opposition. So it's one of those things where if you can't do that in front of a big name like Joe Rogan or someone like oh fuck, I don't know, like Ben or even like a Steven Crowder type, like what makes people think that you can do that in front of other people? You know?
Yeah.
So it's like you should be able to sit in front of the big dog and say, listen, this is what I believe in, this is how I believe it, and this is why we're gonna go through it and why I just fundamentally disagree. But yeah, I think that was probably one of the biggest gripes I had with Kamala, which is like, why are you not going on there? Or at least like going on public forums and saying, I'm trying to get on Joe, but he's not letting me get on Joe. That one, at that point, I'd be like, okay, cool. That's something that we can like discuss and be like, Joe, why are you not putting her on there? But if she's not gonna if she's not gonna actually put in the effort to talk, then fuck it. Like
I have
she's
like
not
not
there
to
for
like
me.
switch up the subject too, but I have another good question I wanted to ask you. So we
Yeah.
both live in Florida where they have banned porn for anyone over the age of 18,
Yeah.
and even like websites like Pornhub have just completely taken away access in the state. Do you think it's something that the federal government should consider? Like I understand that porn is already only supposed to be viewed by 18-year-olds, but statistics show that like minors are, I want to say it's like 12 or it's somewhere around 20% of all the consumers of porn. It's a
Uh-huh.
very large percentage. So do you think that there should be more restrictions to access to it? Like, do you think that kids should be having to input their IDs through all 50 states to be able to access porn?
I think you know what that's going to be a hot take, but yeah, I fully
Yeah.
believe because
Oh, I
for
think so.
something, I think that the federal government should be able to say, okay, if you're going to go onto 18 plus websites or if you're going to be showing 18 plus material, like you should have an ID that shows that you're 18 and up.
Yeah.
I believe the same thing with Twitch. Twitch is having a huge problem with like their not safe for work like streams, which is okay if that's something that you're concerned about. You should set up a system where it's if you can't show me your ID is above a certain age, then at that point like you can't access it.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think we
that
need to be protecting kids. Yeah.
it's not even just protecting kids, it's more just like you don't know what goes into something like that. You don't know the difference between having it in a relationship and then seeing that as like their quote unquote, not quote unquote, but like their business. And if that's going to be
Yeah.
their business, like you should be able to discern that, okay, you're 18, you've been through sexual education, what exists out there, the ramifications of this stuff. And so because of that, like if you go onto this website, you need to be this age, you need to have a profile with this so we know that that you're on there, and if that's the case, go for it. But yeah, I think that's what makes it so interesting about I've had these conversations with Republicans before where they're like less government is better for our country, when it's like it's not necessarily true. Like we should have the federal government and our state governments being like, listen, there's certain things that we need to abide by. And if the federal government stated you must show an ID to be on these sort of websites or like 18 plus websites or like adult websites, you must be 18 and up to be able to show that, or not 18 up, but show an ID. If that's the case, okay, cool. So then like Florida can say you must be 18. California can say if you have an ID at the age of 16, like that's fine. Michigan can say you have to be 21. That's when we can start like implementing those things. It's hard for me to say yes fully though, because, and this is the only reason why I say this, is because of the Fourth Amendment of the right to privacy. That's the only thing that's keeping me from like fully saying yes. I do agree that we should have a little bit of oversight when it comes to those websites, but it's hard. It's
The
hard.
Fourth Amendment's a really good point there, and you don't hear
Yeah,
a lot of people say that in when you're talking about this topic. So I like that.
yeah,
I like that take a lot because yeah, it's a really unique one. Can I ask you a personal question with it?
Yeah.
What was the first age that you were shown or found porn?
Mm, I was shown this at the age of like 15,
Oh
16.
wow.
When I first,
That's
yeah,
late. I was like 11 or like 10 or 11.
damn. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think for us at that time, it was not newer, but it was a little bit more different from what we've seen before. It wasn't as popular, but then when new age technology appeared, it's just blown up out of proportions.
Yeah, I really think it was during the pandemic that I realized how unhealthy porn was. And a lot of it was a girl I was dating in the past helped me realize it too. And, like I didn't realize how it like negatively impacted the relationship more till I saw it actually
Yeah.
negatively impact the relationship. And by then it's like kind of too late. But it's one of those weird things where it's like it's kind of like weed. Like I work in the THC industry, and I'll be the first person to say that the most untold thing about the weed industry is they all say it's not addictive, but it's very addictive. It's the same thing with porn. It's like there's no one there. Like it's such a taboo subject that like even like guys aren't really talking about like porn with their friends the same way they're just talking about girls. Like not a lot of people talk about it, so it's like there's not a lot of people there to tell you like it's very addictive and it is going to obscure what you think sex is and what it should be, and it's going to normalize things that shouldn't. Like I don't know, there's a lot of things that porn does that I think are extremely unhealthy to the young male mind and like extremely addictive to like a yeah, if you're a 14-year-old pumping out testosterone, I mean like
Hmm.
it's one of the it's a weird feeling to like
Hmm.
it's only something as a guy you could really it's hard for me to articulate, I guess. I'm sure there are people who can, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of those weird things that I really I would love to see more oversight on it. I would love to see just ID checkers on the website just verifying that people are, and like OnlyFans too is a big problem with that. Like OnlyFans, you're supposed to be 18, but statistics show that 45% of all the consumers on OnlyFans are minors. And that's
Yeah.
like a scary thought that like there are kids like paying for this. Like they already have like the free options like Pornhub, but like most people before they're paying for porn, like they start with regular porn. So if you're in your like a minor still and you're already at the point where you're paying for it, it's like okay, like you need a cold turkey quit. Like that's you've gone too far.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I agree with that too, of that sentiment where it's okay, like you're viewing that act of sex and that intimacy completely differently now because you're seeing it from a different lens, and it turns turns guys and girls into stereotypes that they never should be. You should
Yeah.
never want to treat your girl like like a porn star is being treated. Like a lot of the times, it's pretty abusive of what, even if it is like contractual
Oh, I'm
through
sure.
their basis. And then for guys, like you shouldn't be just be treated as like a thing that just gets a girl to that kind of point. And so like yeah, I agree. Like they turn sex into this thing that that shouldn't be as not monstrosity. I feel like it's a very loaded word, but
No,
as
I get where
like
you're going at though.
yeah,
As
it's like
taboo.
it's not as taboo as negative as it's being shown. I think that that interaction is a very intimate, very powerful interaction, and those kind of feelings that you have with somebody when you do it is such a powerful feeling that you know whether or not you have multiple people in the party, like everyone's a very consenting adult, you have the right to do so. That still promotes that intimacy betwixt the parties. I'll give you an example. I was part of myself and two other women at the time. This was overseas. It was something that one, we had multiple conversations about, but also two, it was something that was very intimate. One member was bisexual, so it was very much like big understanding in that moment, but it or bi-curious, I think it was bi-curious, I can't remember, but it was one of those things where it was still intimate because we never treated each other like an object. We treated each other like human beings, and in the relationship that I'm in now, like we treat each other like loving relationships do. I think she would have broken up with me if I ever treated her like she was just some oh my God, step bro, I'm locked in a fucking washing machine kind of bullshit. You know,
That's
like,
also as someone who has a step family, the
crazy.
rise in step porn it's disgusting and vile,
Crazy.
and it makes me want to go take a cold shower and throw up.
Yeah,
It is disgusting.
I feel like they're just doing it as jokes now. Like they're just doing it as like a fucking meme. Which
I
is
think
fine,
it's just the
but
clicks and like I don't know what it is, but like I
but
don't know like
yeah,
how'd that become a thing? Like
I
when did like borderline incest become okay? Like how that's my problem with porn right there. Is like that's what porn addiction is. It starts with like you're just watching, like it goes from like, oh, I'm curious, like what does sex look like? What does a blowjob look like? What do these things look like? To like, okay, like I'm gonna watch a guy plow his stepmother in the washing machine. Like
yeah.
that leap should be like a 50-year period, but it's really like a 4 to 5 year period, which is so scary.
It should be studied. I will say, like,
Oh
how
my
did we
god,
get
yeah.
from like point A to point B? Like
It
that's
is
crazy.
the direction porn is going is very scary to me. When Florida made the law, I mean, I was pushing so hard, like not that I had anything to do with that. I was just tweeting every week at Ron DeSantis, ban porn in Florida, ban porn in Florida, ban porn in Florida. And when they finally came out with the bill, I was so excited. I think
Yeah.
that it is, if I didn't have access to porn when I was a minor and I just didn't have an ID to like if I was in the circumstance where you're in Florida today, where you have to upload an ID to get on a porn site, if I had that when I was a minor, my life probably would be a lot better and different, and I probably would have been way more productive as a child. And it's like
Having
shouldn't be a crazy thing to say, but it
yeah,
is.
having a restriction is a very smart idea. Having the restriction
Yeah.
to do that, I think, is good, especially if you're like if you're trying to protect the kid's mindset while they're still developing everything. Yeah, I can see like the restrictions on that. The like I said before, like the only thing that's just holding me back fully is okay, so where do we start? Where do we start with that privacy thing? Like where does it start? Where does it stop? And that's the beautiful thing about having these
That is an
debates,
interesting thing. Like
you know?
movies with nudity, where does that rank? Like movies with in-depth
Right,
sex scenes, like do you have to upload an ID to see that? Like that's
right,
a interesting thing where it's like you do have to show a ID to see it in theaters, but like not when you're renting it on Prime at home. So
right.
that's where it does become more interesting, and like you could probably just further develop it. But I do think that overall, I think it will be a net positive. That could just me being, because I'm excited about it. But I do think overall, for young men, like for young men and women, but for young men specifically, I think it will be a net positive, or at least I really hope so.
Yeah. And I think for women too, it'll be a positive because I don't think, and not that I fully blame them, but I blame podcasts like the Fresh and Fit podcast where it's just like you're hearing things from guys that one have not been in relationships, but also two don't care about the plight of what's happening to women. I'm under the full belief that body has the right to their autonomy, the right to self-expression, and their rights to protect themselves. But I also do believe that we shouldn't just treat other people in a way just because they're a man or a woman. And so listening to someone like Fresh and Fit being like, oh, all the women want to do is this, that, and the third. All they want is like a man that's got a really fancy car or whatever. And it's okay if they just want a guy with a fancy car, fine, that's their prerogative. But if you're trying to put men in a better position, you shouldn't say that that's what you should get. What you should be saying to men is you want to look for a woman that's going to treat you how you want to be treated. If you want to be loved and cared for, if you want to be respected, if you want someone to hear your emotions and hear your pain, like you should want that to exist. You should want somebody like that to be there for you. And it's just funny listening to these guys that are like barely in relationships. It's like, how the fuck
What's his
do you
name?
know?
Myron Gaines, right?
Yeah.
Fit guy.
Yeah. I think he said
I think he's like a double-edged sword. Like I think
yeah.
there are some things like same thing with Andrew Tate. Like there's a lot negative, but there's a lot positive. Like I think I'm a big believer in like stoicism and doing the hard things you don't want to do on the days you don't want to do them are the one of the keys to success and peace in your mind and things like that. I think accomplishing hard tasks not only like boost your confidence, but it boosts your abilities, your skill set, and it's good for the mind. So I don't know. I'm a big believer in like I like a lot of the things like the workout stuff that they push. Like I train MMA, so I love that side of it as well.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of, and it's no fault to the Muslim religion at all, but I think a lot of where Myron and Andrew Tate, where they come off negative with women a lot, is some of the stuff with the Muslim, like the having like five wives and like, saying like women should be cooks and nothing more. Like a lot of that probably stems from their own personal religious beliefs because they're like as devout Muslims as it gets. As far as I know, I could be wrong on that, but I think it is true.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think they're like really double-edged swords. Where like I agree with you, where there's so much negative. Like you shouldn't be putting men or women in a category. If you're saying like all men need to do this and all women need to do this, you're just wrong. Like there is
Yeah.
a diverse field of people, and people are gonna have different skill sets. And like, yeah, a lot of moms are gonna want to be stay-at-home moms, but then there are gonna be people who don't want kids. And whether I agree with that or not, that's no one else's opinion but their own. Like this is
Right.
America, the land of the free because of the brave, and we can't just tell people like you need to. I think the only reason we would ever be able to tell people we need kids is if we were like about to be extinct as a human. Like we are having a birthing collapse right now, but it's not bad enough where it's like, hey guys, you need 3 kids apiece or you need a kid apiece. Like
Yeah.
it's just something where we need to better educate and encourage people to have more children. And like we were saying earlier, incentivizing it. Like I think if you
Yeah.
gave people $10,000 per kid they had up to five
Like,
kids, I don't even
great.
think there should be a limit. Like I think like $10,000 a kid, like, and it's super feasible. If you look at the numbers of kids that are born a year, you're probably spending more on like sidewalk repairs.
Yeah. Let me see. Kids born a year. Let's see. Yeah, like that's feasible money. That really is. Like,
Well, what number was it? How many kids were born last year?
so for the United States in 2023, it was about 3.5 million, down 2% from the number in 2022. So if you took 3 point, was it 5 or 9? 3.5 million times
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah. Oh, it is a long number.
That's 30, yeah, that's $35 billion. That's not that much money in the grand scheme of
No,
things. We've
35
taken,
billion is nothing
and
for the
like,
government.
and here's the best, and this is such a great thing for you to say. I really appreciate it because it's the beautiful thing is that we have the money to give to these families that want to have children, but they're just, they're in the lower poverty rates. They're in like down the dumps. And honestly, you could cut that number if you were to say, okay, you make $100,000 as a single parent, you make $100,000 a year. You don't need the $10,000. We know you're going to make that you're going to be fine with your kids. But like families that make like $30,000 a year, or like single parents that make $30,000 a year that barely have a home, like that $10,000 is going to be a pretty big deal if they've got 5 kids. So,
I mean, I really think they should figure out more ways to incentivize. Like, I'm a big believer in population growth, and I'm a big believer in supporting kids, protecting kids, and having more kids. And a lot of that, I think, stems from like, I feel like lies I was told growing up, like not by my family or anything, but just see in the media and whatever, and just stuff I believe. But like, I was someone who was planning on getting a vasectomy until a few years ago when I realized that would have been one of the worst mistakes in my life. Like, I'm
yeah,
someone who now, like, I want 5, 6 kids. And it's like crazy to think about that. Like for so long, I was like, oh, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids. And a lot of that stemmed from either personal stuff or just like negative things you'd see in the media regarding marriage, divorce, and like financial aspects of kids. And I would listen to a lot of the arguments of like kids are a financial burden, like the amount of money it takes to raise a kid in these first X amount of years, which it is true. It does cost a lot of money to, and especially if you want like good daycare, childcare, all those things. But then I realized that I don't know. I don't know how I realized I kind of just woke up one day with the feeling of just clarity on it. And it was just like, no kid to me could ever be a burden because they would be the biggest blessing in my life. Like if I was lucky enough to have a son or daughter, like I mean, yeah, like that would be I would smile from ear to ear until I died. Like that's the dream right there. That's all I
yeah,
could like that's happiness to me for what I could think of. So it's like I don't know. It's weird to think like how the mind evolves as you grow up. And like I'm sure as I get older, I'll even like there are things now that I'm closed off to that I'll be more open to or vice versa. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where you really gotta look inward and see for yourself like what you want. And I don't know. I find it interesting how my mind developed with that. That I for so long, like if you ask me any time in the last 10 years besides the last two, I would have said no. I'm not gonna have kids. Not gonna get married. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna relax, just be a man. And
I've actually asked my brother like how it is to be a dad, and he loves the fact that he's a father, and he wants to have more kids, and I totally get that, but it's like, damn, if you want more kids, we're gonna have to figure out a way for you to enjoy those kids without having to struggle. Because I know that his wife is like, man, I don't want to continuously go through that kind of struggle and not have, not have the ability to take care of those kids. So
oh yeah,
I think it's really great to hear that this is what you want to do, and I think that's a really honorable thing too. Is that, listen, at the end of the day, we should be taking care of families that want to have kids. Like
yeah.
you almost losing the opportunity to be a father fucking sucks. I'm glad that you
No,
didn't
I
do
mean they
that.
always say it's reversible too, but like it was just like drilled into me at a point, like the idea to be scared of child support and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Like and like that it's just like that's a stupid thought in general because I would want to be like a present, like I would want to be like a married father. Like I wouldn't want to like be paying child support and not, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it was all like I like to say it's like a mix of like lies I was told and just like, things I saw because I was a child who my parents got divorced. So that definitely had a big impact. But yeah, like the more I've got older and the more my brain's developed, I think I've like just been able to see like I feel like I would be really sad in life if I was 60 and I didn't, like the closest thing I had to a kid was like a niece or nephew, which that wouldn't be a problem. Like there's nothing wrong with that, and that's a
yeah,
beautiful thing in itself, but I don't know, like the relationship I have with my father and my mother too is so special. I look to my father for guidance still to this day in a lot of things, and
yeah.
I would love to have that with my son or daughter one day. And like
Right.
the way my dad is with my sisters, like I would love to, like I watched him get them ready for like their first date and like prom and drop them at college. And like, I don't know, like that's beautiful. Like that's family. Like that's the stuff I love.
Yeah, yeah. That's good stuff, man. I'm glad that you're doing that for real. Like that's awesome.
I have one more big question I want to ask you before we'll probably not go on too much longer here. I want to know, where do you want to see the country in 5 years, and where do you want to see, and not where do you think it will be in 50?
I want the country in 5 years to, because I know that we've talked about it before. I want this country to still stick to its morals and its principles. That's what I want in 5 years. I want it to still be in its moral argument that everyone's created equal, that we find ways to make everyone created equal, and that we still follow our Constitution no matter what laws are enacted. In 50 years, man, that's a tough one. If we, you know
Oh
what?
yeah.
I'll say it. If we don't have high speed rails that take us from here to Maine or from here to California or from here to
You
Washington
don't think we'll
State,
invent something faster than that?
I just want something that's going to be like more, because as much as I love planes, man, the feeling that I have of sitting in a train, like when you go to, okay,
Oh, I'm from the Northeast. I get it. I love
yeah.
trains.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you ever go to China and you spend like a month there, from Shanghai to like Beijing, it's like a couple hours by bullet train. But my God, it's the most wonderful feeling. You just get to sit there, you get to be on your computer or something, you get to read your book, you get to talk with a lot of people and hang out. But it's so much more grounded, obviously, because it's a train, but also it's just a nicer feeling. I'm not sitting in a compact train thinking that this thing's gonna fucking crash and I'm gonna die. I'm on the ground in a safer position. But yeah, I just want high speed railways that traverse the entirety of this country in 50 years. I want I want us to have better partnerships. It doesn't have to be actual like allyships, but just better partnerships with our allies and maybe even our adversaries. And be like, listen, we have disagreements. I don't like what you're doing. You don't like what I'm doing. But you know what? We can at least stop throwing, you know, we can stop throwing bombs at each other. We can stop throwing tariffs at each other, sanctions on each other. You do your thing, we do ours. You leave us alone, fine. But then also, I just want us to be debt free. I'm fighting to be debt free. It's if I can fight to be debt free, the country can fight to be debt free.
Oh yeah.
But that's all. That's what I want: high speed railways, debt free. better diplomacy. That's what I want. 50 years.
I do hope it takes less than 50 years to get debt free, but I mean, for all I know, it
Right.
could be 10 times worse in 50 years.
Dog,
So,
same. Yeah, I would want. You know what? I want it to be done in 10. I want it to be done in
let
10
me
years.
ask one more question too. I know you probably don't agree with Trump's takes on it. A lot of people don't, but in your lifetime, would you like to see a 51st state?
I would want. Okay, this is hard because it's like
Like if it wasn't through if it wasn't through a war, like it wasn't through us capturing.
Well, because I know that, and this is the struggle that I have because a lot of people that I know that are from Puerto Rico, as an example, like it's a U.S. territory, but it's not a state, but they want it to be a state, but they don't. I would say if we're going to treat Puerto Rico like it's a state, we should give it the access to our benefits like a state. I would probably make Puerto Rico the 51st state first, but
Okay.
that would have to obviously be through them. I don't know how they want to do that. I don't know how the people see that. Like,
Yeah.
there are benefits to having state. You have the federal government that's
Yeah.
going to be there to protect you, give you financial ties, and help you with your economy. I wouldn't mind a 51st state so long as it's Puerto Rico's decision first. If there was any other country that they wanted to make a 51st state, I wouldn't agree with it. And it's only because we've that location itself has just been through so much shit that we either need to help them by having them be our allies and just sticking as a U.S. territory. I don't know, like I have to look up how like that all works, or just make them a state and just give them the benefits that other states deserve.
The things I want as a state are like different than like the usual republic. Like a lot of the Republicans say like Greenland and Canada, and I think Greenland's a good one. But my two big, like if I could pick any two places that I could see as a state in my lifetime, my biggest one would always be Mexico. I've always thought the idea of making Mexico a state would be great just because it would solve the immigration crisis in a day. Like it would make every illegal immigrant just a citizen, and it would definitely be tricky because there are people who just love to stay in Mexico. Like they don't want to be a part of the US at all, and that's where it gets tricky.
And
But it would
the other
also help with the cartels is the other argument I have. Like it would if the US if Mexico was a state, the US would have no choice but to just completely eliminate the cartels.
Mhm.
And it would happen quickly, and that would be a net benefit to Mexico.
I suppose here's where I would kind of combat with that, because it's, yes, you could say that if you make Mexico the 51st state, it would combat that, but then it would also just push it down to other Central America countries. And I
Oh
think
yeah,
that
the bottom of Mexico border would be the new border. That would be the new southern wall.
and that would be that, and that could potentially be like an issue. So it would, in a sense, from what I see what you're saying, it would stop it from multiple states, but like it would just bring it down now to Mexico. And plus, you'd have to find ways to finance them as well, and you know how that all works out. I would just say start with our territories first. I think that the idea, if we have territories, we should give them our benefits if they so choose to decide that benefit. But yeah, that's just me. I don't know about having a 51st state. I like my 50s. I think they're great.
Yeah.
But
50's not a bad number.
let me ask you a question, because I think this is good. Obviously, with everything that's going on in places like Ukraine and Russia and Palestine and Israel, of course, these struggles that they're having right now, do you think that it's better for the United States to basically be the middle person or to have a side?
With both wars or one specific?
We'll just do Ukraine for today, and then we'll do the other ones later on. But for me, I'll give you an example. I'll do Palestine for myself and Israel. I think that the struggle with what happened when they put the embassy in Jerusalem took the ground in the Middle East. And I think that we as a country should be more of a middle person, saying, let's keep the peace and not cause any of these these damages, because I fully believe that Palestine needs to be they deserve to have their lives back, and it's hard because a lot of infrastructure has been destroyed. And the same thing with Ukraine. I think that they should have their life of sovereignty, but I don't think that what we're doing right now with Russia is a good idea. I think we should just be the middle ground.
Do you think Trump trying to are you saying that Trump's taking Russia's side, you mean, or are you saying that Trump is taking the middle instead of taking Ukraine's?
I think that what he's doing is showing a lot more hostility towards Ukraine instead of showing like, look,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I could agree that there was a lot more hostility towards Ukraine, but my
Mm,
view is probably different than yours. But my view on it is the reason there was more hostility towards Ukraine is I think Ukraine was, or Zelensky specifically was
mm,
hostile towards that. Like in the White House meeting, I think, like I don't, people picked on what he wore, like that was unimportant to me. But it was
yeah,
more like when he said, "You have this big ocean between you, you don't feel it, you will one day." That's the worst kind. Like you have to know your audience and know who you're talking to. And like Trump's he's an ego guy a little bit. So like you can't make an indirect threat to an ego guy, especially in the business world, because like they're gonna smell that from a mile. Like, you know,
yeah,
Trump's made a million business deals with a million guys. He knows when someone's making an indirect, or like even if he didn't mean it like that, like something that can be taken as a threat. So that part I didn't love, and I thought like Trump's response to that was actually really good.
yeah,
I think that I don't know, for Israel and Palestine it's different. I don't have as much of an opinion because I just genuinely haven't looked into it as much as I should have. I focus more on domestic stuff than I do on foreign, but for the Russia
same.
Ukraine, it's been going on long enough that I know a lot about it. And I think a few things really opened my eyes. When Vivek said to Nikki Haley in the debate, "You can't even name the 5 provinces you want us to send troops to or where we're sending weapons to in Ukraine," and she just stood there and couldn't respond. That was one of the eye openers where I was like, there's probably a lot of politicians who are voting for this Ukraine stuff who couldn't name the same things and are gonna go home and look them up so they don't look stupid tomorrow.
Yeah,
So that was a big thing where it's like we're sending stuff to places where the politicians don't even know where it's going, and like most of the money was getting laundered. But I think if Trump was to insert himself directly in the middle, which I kind of think he is, I think it's the best move. I think with someone like Putin, it's also like you got to know your audience. Like if we were to just go against Putin, this war wouldn't end unless we started World War III and entered the war. They would need American forces to end that war at that point, and then at that point, it's like North Korea and China is getting involved, and it's like a whole different thing. So I really think that you got to almost play it smart with Putin. I do think we should be very firm with him. Like, I don't think Trump should be like, oh, whatever Putin wants. Like, I want Trump to be Donald Trump. I want him to be a
yeah.
negotiator. But yeah, I don't think that we should be siding with either Russia or Ukraine. I think at this point, they're not just as guilty, but Ukraine's not trying to end it as
Mm,
the same way that we're trying to end it for them, and they're
mm.
trying to, maybe they want to end it, but they don't want to end it with, like, they're trying to get stuff that Putin won't budge on, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's just a struggle. I have to look into it a little bit more on my side. I do believe that like full sovereignty should be respected on both sides.
Yeah.
I understand why Russia wants to do what Russia's doing, but at the same time, I don't agree with it. I like the idea of keeping firm because it's like we have not been friends with them for a very long time, and I think that it's for ample reason because they've done a lot of stuff that is just not okay. But more than just not okay, obviously. But yeah, I do like the idea of just trying to keep it as diplomatic as possible. But yeah, I'm glad. I appreciate you answering it.
Yeah, I don't want to like Trump, like I said, I just don't want him to concede to Putin and like bow down to him at all. I just don't want, like I said, I'm an anti-war guy because I hate the death of it. I
Hmm.
just don't want to see, like, if another million people die, that would be a tragedy. If another 100,000 die, it's sad. But like,
Hmm.
if another million people were to die because they just can't figure out one piece of land, like, you know, Zelensky wants it for him, Putin says we already captured it, we're not giving it back. Like, if that one piece of land is worth a million lives to them, I don't think that, you know, they should be the leader of their country. That's
Yeah,
just poor leadership at a point.
yeah,
I think that you need to, I think every government has a duty to its own citizens before anyone else's, and it has a duty to protect its citizens at all costs. And when you're like in Ukraine, it's really sad to say, but they're throwing like people with disabilities at the front line at this point. Like they're picking up people with Down syndrome and Asperger's and people out of mental hospitals, and they're putting them on the front lines because they're running out of people who want to fight this war because they know it's death. It's like trench warfare and drones, and you're getting killed by people you can't even see from a, you know, a drone hundreds of
Yeah.
feet above your head. It's
Yeah.
just it's scary, sad thoughts that I think need to end.
Yeah, fully understand that. Yeah, we should be inciting more peace and prosperity than we should be trying to get into
Yeah,
fights and
I'm a
wars and
big
stuff. Yeah.
proponent of peace. Like I think war is necessary when it is. Like World War II was very necessary.
Yeah.
Vietnam was not. You know, like there's a lot of wars that are worth fighting, and there are a lot of wars that are political propaganda. And I think we need. That's the biggest problem with the media is trying to figure out what's propaganda and not. I don't think Obama was intentionally trying to do it, but Obama repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which technically made propaganda illegal or legal in the United States again. It was a very big bill that had other implications, is why he took away the bill. But when he did that, it also made propaganda legal technically. And the media's, I don't specifically blame Obama. I don't think that was his intention behind that, but the media on all sides, Republican and Democrat, have really become propaganda machines, I think. And it's just so hard to know the truth now.
Yeah.
And that's why I like just like, I mean, we've been talking here for what, 2 hours, 45 minutes. Like that's, I don't know. That's why stuff like this is awesome. Like,
Yeah, fully agree.
but before we get off today, do you have anything else you want to talk about? Any stuff you like to, or thinking of?
Honestly, no. I feel like this 2 hour 45 minute kind of thing is good. I appreciate you having me on, and
I want you to plug all your stuff too.
Yeah.
Plug all your social medias, your podcast, whatever you got. Plug it all.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Finnemore on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch, and even on X. Sometimes I post on there, sometimes I don't. I honestly, there's just so much I have to fucking deal with. It's like I can't. There's too much going on. But yeah, you may see me in another video of Jubilee. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I'm Mr. Finnemore everywhere. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was awesome talking to you. I'm sure me and you are going to talk a ton more off camera and hopefully on camera a couple more times in the future. I'm sure my guests will like to see. This is the first time I've had someone on the opposite political party on, and I like that we were able to just have a good conversation. And I think that's what a lot of people do want to see. So hopefully in the future you'll come back on. It'll be really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Maybe like one of these days it'll be like a topic that just appeared. Maybe it'll be like a situation and we'll be like, hey, listen, we got to talk about this if you want.
Oh,
And then,
I'm down. Yeah, anytime a big topic comes up, I'm always here for it. I love it.
Yeah. All right, man. Sounds good.
Hell
Again,
yeah.
man. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I'm gonna do I was gonna put a bunch of stuff at the end of this, but I'm not. I'm just gonna do my normal sign off now.
Yeah.
This has been episode 57 of America Unfiltered. I want to thank our guest Mathew today. Again, I'm gonna put all his socials in the description for you guys. Follow him on Instagram, on TikTok, on X. Follow him on YouTube. He is incredibly smart and talented. He was on the Jubilee Pro versus anti-deportations episode with me. I hope you guys have a blessed day. I'm signing off, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.